Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Beyond the Veil. Coming up here in just a few moments, we have our dear friend, Robert W. Sullivan, that's going to be joining us to talk about symbolism in pop culture. Now, if you've missed any of the previous shows with Robert, they have been amazing. We've talked about Masonic symbolism in so many different movies, religious symbolism, and the list goes on and on and on. We talked about The Exorcist. We talked about The Ninth Gate. We talked about so many different movies, and I guarantee you by the end of the show, you're going to have a list of movies that you're going to be plugging into Netflix or Amazon or maybe even BitTorrent or whatever, because you're going to have to go back and watch these movies with these new eyes that you are about to receive as we step beyond the veil.
The sky so far away tonight, but I can't lose this one. Get a pride of a falling night. Thought that I was fit to fight for us to be. You gave me life for loving me. Tell me where did we go so wrong?
Raw consciousness does not require a savior, but rather, raw consciousness requires only knowledge of oneself, and the power to access it. Remember this, as we unlock an even greater gnosis. From beyond the veil.
From the Pacific Northwest, good morning, good evening, wherever you may be across the nation, around the world. I'm Chris Gio. I will be taking you beyond the veil this evening. I'm joined, of course, by my lovely wife and co-pilot, Mrs. Gio.
Good evening, everyone.
And we have an incredible show for you. Robert W. Sullivan will be joining us here in just a few moments to talk about cinema symbolism. Now, we have been on the journey with Robert, or Robert has been on the journey with us for quite some time now. And we interviewed him first about the Royal Arch of Enoch's Masonic symbolism, Cinema Symbolism 1. I'm sorry, that's what I'm thinking of. Cinema Symbolism 1. Cinema Symbolism 2. Try saying that 3 times fast. I think you might invoke Lucifer if you say it 3 times fast. So just a warning out there, ladies and gentlemen. And of course, his upcoming book, Cinema Symbolism Part 3, where he gets into a lot of really fascinating stuff. Especially, he was telling me off air, David Lynch's material, which, as he described it, it's a Hercules attempt because it's just such a big body of work and so many different symbols. I remember a couple of shows ago, we were talking about The Exorcist, and I didn't even realize this in these scenes, but when the mother is sitting around the table and they're diagnosing Reagan, for example, there's 12 doctors around, and she makes the 13th. It's like the scene of Jesus sitting with his disciples. There's so many different symbols. Fight Club and the Tyler, of course, was really big because the Tyler is the one that sits outside of a Masonic lodge. The main character's name is Tyler. The initiate has to sit outside of the Fight Club for 3 days, which is very symbolic of the 3 knocks in Masonic ritual. And finally, after the 3 knocks, the door is open to him. He comes in blind, naked, etc., etc., and he's brought his own clothes. And it's really, really, really fascinating. I don't want to butcher it, because I don't want to do any disservice to it, but Robert can lay it out so much better for us. What do you think?
Definitely. I mean, he's the go-to guy for cinema symbolism, I've noticed. He notices so many things that we never think to even look at. And then when he points it out, it's like plain as day. So when he talks about movies like The Exorcist, and then you go back and watch the movie again, then it points out to you all the different things that you missed before. It's incredible. He's an incredible historian of cinema.
That is very true. RobertWSullivaniv.com is the website, and he's got just a whole bunch of really, really, really fascinating books there. I definitely recommend you check them out. But rather than running another intro, let's just go ahead and bring Robert on the line with us. Robert, how are you doing, sir?
Hi, Chris. Hello, Cherie. Thank you again for having me on Beyond the Veil. This is, I don't know, been on numerous times with you guys. So many, I can't even remember how many. But it's always wonderful to be a guest on your show. And again, thank you for having me on. And it's my pleasure to be here. And I look forward to this evening's discussion.
Likewise. And as you can tell, we kind of skipped the intro because you are a household name around here. So people know who Robert W. Sullivan is. I've actually referenced your work many, many times in other shows, and especially some of the research into Masonry and then tying it into cinema symbolism. So where would you like to begin? Because I guess let's do a brief summary of maybe the Royal Arch of Enoch and how that leads into cinema symbolism, just for people that have not heard of the ideas before. Then let's get into some of the new information, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. I give you some background. I've published 4 books. My first is The Royal Arch of Enoch, which was about Masonic symbolism and about how Masonry, I'm painting with very broad strokes here, helped cultivate the United States of America. And in the book, the last chapter dealt with Masonic and Enochic and solar symbolism in film. Some of the movies I covered was, and this is stuff we've talked about on the show, before, was like National Treasure, Being There, Da Vinci Code, movies like that. And of course, this was a subject matter that I wanted to explore much more deeply. So I published, so the first movie book was Cinema Symbolism, which came out, I think now, good God, it's been over 5 years. And that was my first foray into occult movie symbolism. And then after that came Cinema Symbolism 2. And after that came A Pact with the Devil, was my first work of fiction. I've been working on 4 books at the same time of recent, since publishing the last book. And again, you reach a point where you really can't do it anymore. You got to kind of just concentrate on one. So the one I really wanted to concentrate on was Cinema Symbolism 3, which is coming along very, very well. What I've been doing is, in the meantime, was I kind of have taken a break from podcasting. But the last show I believe I did was in March of this year. And the reason for that was, it was kind of like almost, how many times can I explain The Wizard of Oz? How many times can I explain the Matrix movie? How many times can I explain The Exorcist? So I thought it was probably a good idea at that point just to maybe, take a little step back from doing the podcast and just concentrate on the writing, and the research, and getting Cinema Symbolism 3 ready to go. So I can report that Cinema Symbolism 3 will be my next book. That is coming along very well. I'm anticipating a January-March 2020 release for that book. What has slowed it down, and this is what we were talking about off air, what really has slowed the book down was when I wrote Cinema Symbolism 2, I covered 4 David Lynch movies. I covered Mulholland Drive, Lost Highway, Blue Velvet, and Dune. And there were the other Lynch material, films I wanted to cover, namely, the other big 3, which is Eraserhead, Wild at Heart, and Twin Peaks. And the problem was, I actually cover in Cinema Symbolism 3 2 television series. I cover Bates Motel, which is, of course, a spinoff of Hitchcock's Psycho, and I'm covering Twin Peaks. I watched Bates Motel when it originally aired on A&E. I'd watched every episode. So when it came time to do that, I was just rewatching the shows. I was like, I remember this. I recall this. That all came back to me. Well, this wasn't the case with Twin Peaks. I had never seen any of the Twin Peaks material. I had seen bits and pieces of it here and there. But I essentially sat down and watched all of it from scratch. Season 1 from 1990, season 2 from 1991. I watched the Fire Walk With Me movie, and then I watched this most recent season 3, which aired 2 years ago on Showtime. And the movie is just very. The whole mythology of this thing is very complex. A lot of it he hides in plain sight, but Lynch goes forwards and backwards, and he's always heavy lifting. I think I really, pinned down what he was talking about. The one thing with Lynch, though, that is interesting, and you really don't get this in the show, is Lynch is very much into the occult and the world of conspiracy. And the reason I can say that is there are canonical texts you can buy about Twin Peaks that are put out by Lynch and Frost. Mark Frost is another one of the co-creators with Lynch. So, for example, I have a book here called The Secret History of Twin Peaks, put out by David Lynch and Mark Frost. It's canon. You can rely on it. I mean, he gives you a lot of backstory with a lot of what's going on in Twin Peaks. So when you watch Twin Peaks and you see things popping up like the Blue Lodge, or the White Lodge, or the Glastonbury Grove, this is designed to evoke, Freemasonry and the Illuminati and things like that. They admit to this in this book. So when you see that and you think it to yourself, oh, this kind of looks eerily similar. This kind of looks like he's talking about maybe the Illuminati with the Owl Cave and, the White Lodge versus the Black Lodge. This is exactly what he is trying to evoke. So Twin Peaks is definitely, it's coming along. I just finished watching actually the other night, the final episode of season 3. So, I'll just wrap up by saying the way that I broke this down was, and I think it's really the only way you can break it down when you're doing Twin Peaks, is you've got to watch, the first season and the second season together and then analyze that, break that down, and then watch the Twin Peaks Fire Walk With Me movie, then analyze that, and then get into this final series, because he intermingles and commingles a lot of different things that if you try to lump it all together, it would just be a mishmash. It wouldn't come out right. You got to concentrate on the one, then concentrate on the second one, and then concentrate on the third one to really kind of pin down what Lynch is going for here.
Wow, that is fascinating, because I've never actually watched any of those Twin Peaks episodes. I need to go back and watch everything, because I hear so much about David Lynch, but I know that I'm somewhat familiar with Masonry, not as much as you are, but just some of the symbolism that you refer to, the Blue Lodge and the Black Lodge and different types of lodges like that. I would be able to spot it now, but not before speaking to you first.
Yeah, he gets into. The one thing with Lynch that he does in all his films that is very, that pervades all his work is duality. When you understand that, you can really start to see, and Twin Peaks is just overloaded with duality. But then you do have this whole thing with the white and black lodges, and then this ties into alchemy. They get into themes of coincidentia oppositorum, the union of opposites. That's a pervasive theme in Twin Peaks. Alchemical completion, the perfection of the soul. This is what Jung called individuation. It's very arcane. It's very in depth. Then you get into Fire Walk With Me, and he goes further, even deeper with the alchemical storyline. But then he kind of gets into, when you get into this latest series, the one they did on Showtime 2 years ago, then you get this entire Gnostic cosmology of Twin Peaks, where Laura Palmer is the fallen Sophia, the giant is the monad, you've got the theater, which would be the Pleroma, the woodman, the evil spirits would be the archons, you've got Judy, who would be the demiurge, Cooper would be the cosmic Christ. So you get, then he gets into this entire Gnostic backstory with Twin Peaks when you delve into this final episode, this final series that aired on Showtime. So it's very heavy lifting, and like I said, it's not one of those things where you can sit there and watch like Blue Velvet for 2 hours or whatever the runtime is and say, okay, make notes during it and say, okay, I get the general idea of Blue Velvet. Let me go back and watch it again. You can't do that with Twin Peaks. It's 30 episodes. You just burn yourself out trying to watch, 5 a day or something like that. The way I paced it out was I was essentially watching one a night, or one every 2 nights, and then making notes and then going back and, rewatching stuff. Because a lot of times, a show later on, one of the later episodes will refer back to something that occurred earlier on in the series. It's like, wait a minute, did I hear that correctly? Do I have to go back and watch this scene again? So again, Twin Peaks is very heavy lifting, but I can report that I am through with it. I have written pretty much the analysis of seasons 1 and 2. I have written the analysis of the Fire Walk With Me movie, and I have outlined pretty well the season 3 material. So once I get this done, I mean, like I said, guys, I'm not kidding you when I say I've been working on this for the last 3 to 4 months. I mean, my God, what are we into August now? I mean, I started Twin Peaks, I want to say back in, April, May, doing this. I mean, my entire reality has been nothing but David Lynch. And I'm also doing the other 2 movies, Eraserhead and Wild at Heart. I did the other 4 movies in the second book.
Well, Robert, before we get too far off topic, somebody in the chat asked a really good question. He said, do you have any thoughts on the jade ring with the owl insignia?
Sure. Absolutely I do. The whole, I got to backpedal because I got to give a bit of a backstory here. The entire purpose of the white and black lodges, this is explained by Hawk, who's played by Michael Horse in the show. He's kind of like what you would call the wise archetype. He kind of is your Hermes Trismegistus type figure, the sage figure. He explains to Cooper the purpose of the white and black lodges. He says perfection of the soul. It's the conscious ego versus the shadow self. When they're unified, they become perfected. And of course, this ties into themes related to alchemy. Like I said, coincidentia oppositorum, the union of the moon and the sun to create the libido, the philosopher's stone to transmute matter. Psychologically, this is the conscious ego and the shadow self to unify to create selfhood, what Jung called individuation. The ring, the green ring, and this green formica table is clearly indicative of the emerald tablet of Hermes Trismegistus, upon which is inscribed the alchemical formula, which all alchemy is made possible. So the owl ring, the green owl ring, is signifying the emerald tablet of Hermes Trismegistus, which is from where all alchemy originates. It's interesting because the ring is very mercurial, and I guess probably not, a mute pun intended, as it were. In the story, the ring kind of turns up, and it turns up at first in the Fire Walk With Me movie. It doesn't turn up in the first 2 seasons of the television show, and it kind of it's worn by Laura to try to protect her from Bob possessing her, and then later in the season 3, it's put on the dead body to return it to the Green Lodge. It's definitely reflective of this alchemical formula that's going on inside these lodges. The one thing that's very interesting about the ring is, if you read the canonical book, they give you this entire backstory of the ring that you'll never find out about on the TV show. And part of the backstory is the ring. They give it this sort of it's sort of a token of ill omen. It was originally discovered by the Freemasons, by Meriwether Lewis, when he explored the Northwest Passage. As part of the exposition set by Thomas Jefferson. Meriwether Lewis, this is the backstory that's given in the text. Meriwether Lewis discovers the ring, and he's murdered because of it. In fact, in the book, there's a image of Lewis's bloody Masonic apron, and they say Lewis was wearing the ring in a Masonic ritual, and he was murdered because of the ring. And then the ring disappears from the history pages. Well, it turns up next, being worn by Jack Parsons, of all things. And according to the canonical text, Parsons is using it as part of this Thelemic rituals with Marley Cameron to bring about the end of the world and herald the Antichrist back in. And then the ring is actually, they said that Parsons is murdered, and the guy who apparently is behind the murder of Parsons is none other than Richard Nixon, who wants the ring for himself. And then Nixon is seen wearing the ring right before Watergate. So it's apparently his undoing as well. So it's a very interesting backstory, to say the least, with the emerald ring, which is clearly denoting the alchemical transition that's going on inside the white and black lodges. And it ties into this other thing, the green formica table, which is mentioned also in Fire Walk With Me.
In the chat, they're saying that the owl appears before an alien abduction. Could it be connected to some kind of alien race? And also, there are gray drones. Could they be indicative of another race of people, maybe star people?
The movie definitely, the television show definitely flirts with UFOs and space aliens. No question about it. You have it's the lines are blurred. There are these archon-like entities. What the two main ones in the television show are Mike and Bob, and it's the line is blurred whether these guys are spiritual or extraterrestrial in nature. They disguise themselves as owls. This is part of the riddle of the giant. He says that owls are not what they seem. When Bob is finally expelled from Leyland Palmer, he transmutes into an owl. And of course, the invitation to the Black Lodge, where Wyndham Earle discovers the petroglyph of the owl, this leads to the Black Lodge. But you get into this whole thing with Major Briggs, where he was out working on, Project Blue Book. So it's a skewed line whether these guys are aliens or if there's an extraterrestrial influence upon this thing. There seems to be. Because they seem to be in communication with extraterrestrial entities. There's codes given and things like that. But when you break it down, the lodges are clearly designed to be spiritual in nature, but they do tie it into extraterrestrials. No question about it.
Wow, that's pretty fascinating. Cherie, do you want to jump in with anything?
Well, my spirit animal's an owl. So, and people are talking in the chat room about how to be an owl is to be quiet and to hunt at night. And I think we see this over and over again in the symbolism of movies and TV shows. Whenever you see an owl, it's always an ill omen, like you said. And can you think of other movies that portray the owl as a part of an underlying malicious kind of figure or malicious storyline or a deeper, darker path that the movie's trying to go down?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. The owl symbolism. If you read the canonical text, the petroglyph is discovered in a place called Owl Cave. This is where the petroglyph it has astrological alignments that opens the door to this Black Lodge. The owl. If you read the text, the owl is a symbol of the Illuminati, and that's why it's called Owl Cave. In fact, according to the text, it's called The Secret History of Twin Peaks, by the way, is what I'm quoting this from. I don't want people to, because people may say, where is he getting this from? Again, this is a canonical text put out by Frost. So, this is the official backstory of the thing. The actual history of Owl Cave is kept in the Masonic Lodge in Twin Peaks, of all things, believe it or not. But the owl symbolism goes back to being a token of wisdom, it's the sacred totem of Minerva and Pallas Athena, who are the wisdom goddesses of antiquity. And the idea of the owl being a token of wisdom, or totem is probably the better word I'm looking for, is because an owl can see things in the dark. It's an animal that hunts, or a bird that hunts in the dark. So the implication, the reason secret societies use it, such as the Illuminati, is that its members can see things in the dark. That they're wise to things that the profane masses are not privy to. That's the symbolism of the owl. So it does, concoct or resurrect sort of sinister overtones. And it was a token, it was an emblem used by the Illuminati. And this is why in Twin Peaks you get into things like Owl Cave and the little ring with the owl symbol on it. No question about it. I'm trying to think of any other movies where owls have been used similarly. There's the one character in Watchmen who is Night Owl, but he's a hero. He's not really a villain, although the movie is a very conspiratorial movie. I'm just trying to think. Nothing's coming off the top of my head, but there's got to be something.
Well, the Bohemian Grove, they actually have a giant owl. That,
of course.
Yeah, and they call it the Owl of Minerva, which goes back to Athena, which is wisdom. And a lot of people say, oh, well, that's satanic or Luciferian or whatever. But I don't think so. I think it means what Hegel said, which is that philosophy comes to understand a historical condition just as it passes away. So it's the going after of wisdom, trying to achieve wisdom.
Yeah, Lynch plays around with Bohemian Grove. The place where the entrance to the Black Lodge is called Glastonbury Grove. And that's clearly designed to resurrect Bohemian Grove and sort of the sinister rituals there. Of course, the owl statue is, you look at the cremation of care ritual, definitely is designed to evoke Moloch and Moloch worship. And of course, when you get into the Watchmen, one of the villains' names is actually Moloch. Interestingly enough.
Oh, that is interesting.
Yeah, so it is interesting. It's fascinating how all this ties together. But no, Lynch definitely is using this all intentionally. What I like about Lynch, there's things I like about Lynch and there's things I don't like about him. The one thing that he does do, and he uses it over and over again, is duality. He uses it so much so that you begin to wonder if this guy really, he's not like a Kubrick where he mix and mashes. Lynch uses the same thing over and over and over again. I mean, you can find duality, in all but every one of his works. Sometimes it's more, a little more pervasive than in other works, but it's always there. But he definitely, kind of plays around with this when you get into the third episode or third season. I keep saying episode, the third season of Twin Peaks, where he starts gauging in repetition. So for example, he kind of takes it to Kubrick. Where Kubrick likes to repeat a lot of things in The Shining. Lynch starts to do this in the third season of Twin Peaks, where, so for example, in the first two seasons, you had Glastonbury Grove, which is where the entrance to the Black Lodge is located. And then in the third season, Glastonbury, of course, is the legendary burial place of King Arthur. This is apparently where King Arthur ruled from. You get into the third season of Twin Peaks, you have Dougie Jones living on Lancelot Court, which is near Merlin Mall or whatever. So he's repeating things from the earlier episodes. He's repeating things in the third season to evoke the first two seasons. The one thing that Lynch is also very keen on, and he must be aware of this, is he gets into the whole thing with The Shining with Kubrick. He seems to be on a big Kubrick kick in the third season because he likes to repeat things. He still engages in dualism, but he gets into more repetition. And the one thing that he clearly pays tribute to in Twin Peaks in the third season, it's the very first episode, is he pays tribute to this whole notion of Kubrick being the guy who staged the moon shot, the moon landing footage, which is apparently unveiled or revealed by Kubrick in the scene in The Shining, which we've talked about ad nauseum, where the little boy stands up, Danny, with the Apollo 11 sweater on, then goes into room 237, the moon being 237,000 miles from the Earth in the late 1970s. And, this is, of course, where Kubrick is alleged to have been the guy who filmed the moon landing, or at least the guys jumping around, in the spacesuits, in some unknown studio. Lynch actually references this conspiracy of all things in the very first episode of season 3 in Twin Peaks, where the woman's walking down the hall in the hotel of all things. So we're in a hotel and she's carrying a little dog with her. The dog starts barking and the name of the dog is named Armstrong of all things. And she takes the dog and she says, "Stop barking." She picks it up and scoots it into room, what is it? 218. She goes into 218. Armstrong, 218, Armstrong, Neil Armstrong, the first man on the moon, 218, added up the number 11, Apollo 11. So Lynch pays homage to the whole conspiracy, Kubrick, man on the moon, filming from The Shining. Very clever of Lynch. I like that scene very much.
Somebody was saying in the chat just a minute ago about... I'm sorry, hold on, my camera switcher's not working. There we go. Somebody was mentioning in the chat about how the owl can see 360 degrees. And I'm wondering if there's any Masonic connection to the owl. And also I wanted to ask you about the 33 degrees of Masonry in correlation to, say, the owl that can see a 360 degree. What is the symbolism behind the 33 degrees and why wouldn't it be, because to me it makes sense, 360 degrees?
Right. Well, the owl, I don't think the owl is a symbol that turns up on a lot of, it's a symbol of the Illuminati. It denotes wisdom. You'll see it probably more so on college fraternity and college sorority seals than you will in anything of Freemasonry. I don't know of Masonry using the owl. I know that, like I said, the Illuminati used it as a symbol. Adam Weishaupt's Illuminati used it as a symbol. The owl's head can rotate. It can rotate like you said, 360 degrees, so it can look all around it. Its eyes sees, in front of it, but the head can rotate at 360. The 33 degrees of Scottish Rite Freemasonry, it ties into Kabbalah. That's Hebrew Kabbalah is where that comes from. It's Kabbalistic. The 33 degrees are reflecting the 10 Sephiroth, however you want to pronounce it, of Kabbalah, the emanations of the Godhead, which is known as Ein Sof in Kabbalah. This is known as the monad in Gnosticism, this unfathomable Godhead. So we have the 10 Sephiroth, and it's 22 paths. So you add 10 plus 22 to get 32. So this is the 32 degrees of Freemasonry, of Scottish Rite Freemasonry. 10 Sephiroth plus 22 paths equals 32. So where do we get the 33rd from? That comes from a hidden Sephiroth known as Doth. And Doth is a hidden Sephiroth, which is a unification of the other 10 Sephiroth. It's a hidden Sephiroth known as Doth. And you add that in, and that equals 33. That's where the 33rd degree comes from. So the 33 degrees of Scottish Rite Freemasonry are purely Kabbalistic in nature. Hebrew mystery school, as it were. You could tie it into Christianity. Of course, there is there's Christian Kabbalah. This is where you spell Kabbalah with a C, not a K. This is more of a Renaissance phenomenon. But no, the 33 degrees of Scottish Rite Freemasonry derives from Hebrew Kabbalah.
Ah, I see. Okay. That makes sense. So what's the difference between the Hebrew Kabbalah 33 and, say, the York Rite, which is, I want to say, goes up to 14, and then there's the Knight Templar degree, or it's 13 and then the Knight Templar degree?
Yeah, I can't remember the actual 9. I think it may be 9. I'd have to go look.
9? Okay.
It might be. I'm speaking off the top of my head. I'd have to go look and see how many degrees there are in the York Rite. There's not as many in the Scottish Rite. But the York Rite is they parallel each other. The two rites run parallel with each other. The difference between the only real difference between the two of them is that the Scottish Rite is sort of non-sectarian. Where in the York Rite, it ends with the end body of the York Rite is the Knights Templar, which you correctly point out. You can only join the Knights Templar. That's only open to Christian Freemasons who have been exalted to the Royal Arch, to the Holy Royal Arch. So, it diverts. It's exclusive. So if you're Jewish or Muslim, you're not going to be able to join the Knights Templar. It's a Masonic anomaly. It's a rarity. Most of Masonry is, deistic. It doesn't have a specific religious requirement. That's not so in the York Rite. The end body of the York Rite is the Knights Templar, which it requires a Christian confession, and you have to be exalted to the Holy Royal Arch in order to join. So I would say that's pretty much the primary difference. Because of that factor, the York Rite probably hasn't enjoyed the popularity that the Scottish Rite has. But the York Rite is a legitimate body of Freemasonry, and it's certainly open to all Blue Lodge Masons. Certainly you could, it's certainly possible where, for example, if you were Jewish, let's say, you could join the York Rite and just stop between, right before the Knight Templar degree, just stop and not go any further. Most Masons don't want to do that, though, let's be honest. When you join a rite, you want to see it through to completion. So really, that's probably the best way for me to answer the question. And it's probably the reason why the York Rite's not as popular as the Scottish Rite.
Well, you know what I found interesting, Robert, is that reading through, say, Duncan's Masonic ritual, I found it to be extremely, extremely Christian-based. So much so that it was completely different than everything I heard on the internet, that it's Luciferian and it's Lucifer worship and so on and so forth. And now we actually have a degree that you have to proclaim Christianity in order to achieve that degree. How did this conspiracy come to be? I mean, how did Masonry go from a Christian organization, which that's what it appears to be, to a secret Luciferian organization that the churches, they hate? Ratzinger, for example, from the Catholic Church. I mean, there's always been the rivalry between the Knights Templar and the Catholic Church. But Ratzinger, when he was cardinal, he made it forbidden to be a Mason and also a Catholic at the same time. And that ban stayed until he was removed as Pope, and the new Pope came in and removed that ban. But it just seems completely backwards. The conspiracies, they're not as the truth isn't as sexy as the conspiracies are, but still the conspiracies are so prevalent that I have to ask myself, there's got to be some truth to the conspiracies, but so far I can't find any.
Well, the Freemasonry comes out of England in 1717. It's basically, the guy who writes the bylaws of it, James Anderson, in the Constitutions of Freemasonry, is a Presbyterian minister. There is a decided Christian overtone to it. But I would call it like sort of an exoteric overtone. Freemasonry, without question, incorporates these fast elements from the mystery schools, from Egyptian mythology. And you'll find this Anderson, who was a Presbyterian minister, talks about this, that how Masons defended from the Egyptian priests of old and the Osirian, temple builders from the pyramids. So there is this mystical side of it. It's like outwardly Christian. This is what Albert Pike talks about. He says there's always these two doctrines. There's the outward and the inward. And the outward tend to, I agree with him. That's really the way I see it. When you look at Masonry, you will clearly see, things relating to astrology, paganism. You will see the Christian element. You will see the solar elements. You will see the Egyptian symbolism. You will see, the mystery school symbolism. You'll see the Jewish symbolism. You'll see the Muslim symbolism. So it incorporates so much. You'll see the Gnostic elements. You'll see the Kabbalistic elements. It incorporates so much from these ancient traditions. And that's one of the things I think is very appealing about it. The way that this whole thing with Lucifer factors into it is really just born out of this book by Albert Pike, who just compares the planet Venus to Lucifer, because Lucifer rises in the, I see that, I think that's the Philadelphia Masonic Lodge. You believe this now? I just got back from the eye doctor the other day, and I have great vision. I have incredibly healthy eyes, but I'm reduced to this now. I'm 47. I'll be 48 in 2 months. I got reading glasses now.
Oh, you know what though, Robert? I recently had LASIK surgery about 6 months ago. No, maybe 3 months ago. Oh, night and day difference. I highly recommend it if you can. We can talk about that off air, though. But it made a huge difference for me. On the screen, this is actually from a lodge in Australia, from Persham, okay. I want to say. But I have seen the one in Philadelphia as well. What you have here is the motif of the priest, and he's represented by the priest because of the, I want to say it's the jaguar. No, it's not the jaguar. It's a different cat that they wore in Egypt. Panther. They wore one in Egypt and the other one in South America. I think the South America was a jaguar. But the priest would wear it. The priest is pouring the acacia into a cup where the pharaoh and maybe one of his wives is drinking from the acacia. Now, what's interesting is that we make our ayahuasca brew out of acacia. And we see the symbols over and over and over again. The burning bush in the Bible is said to be an acacia tree. There's acacia symbolism everywhere. Of course, the heart of Freemasonry is Hiram Abiff, who was found under a sprig of acacia. There's actually a degree in the Scottish Rite that's the sprig of acacia degree, but it's right there in the in the lodges, right on the walls. There's no denying it, but still you read the rituals, and the rituals are Christian over and over and over again. So, I guess you just have to have the eyes to see beyond the veil. What do you think?
Right. Well, read my book, or read Manly P. Hall, or read Albert Mackey and Albert Pike. They'll tell you all this stuff till you're blue in the face. The sprig of acacia is, like you said, is part of the Masonic ritual. I've talked about this before on the show. It's sacred to the soul. It's a solar symbol. It's sacred to the solar messiah, Apollo. And of course, it's placed on Hiram Abiff's grave. And of course, Hiram Abiff is just an Osirian stand-in. he's killed and resurrected with the, secret name of God whispered in his ear, resurrecting him just as Osiris was raised by the secret name of Amun-Ra by Isis. That's what raised him. So the sprig of acacia it's a pine tree essentially, is what a sprig of acacia is. I mean, this is why it ties into the pine tree. You at Christmas time, you bring the pine tree into your house and decorate it with lights, or a Christmas tree. Why? Because the pine tree doesn't shed its leaves in winter. It's a symbol of the undying sun. This is why you decorate a Christmas tree during the winter months. It's quasi-Masonic symbolism. Every time you see a Christmas tree lit up, the needles don't shed. Acacia doesn't shed its needles in winter. It's a symbol of the undying sun. And in fact, if you look at during the American Revolution, the acacia was used. It's like the Gaston, the Gaston flag was used. It's a symbol of undying fidelity, essentially, loyalty to the sun.
Well, so, now that I'm thinking about it, isn't there a motif with the eagle clenching a sprig of acacia?
Probably, yeah.
Ah, okay. I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm sorry.
Well, that's okay. It's a symbol. It's another solar emblem is what it essentially boils down to. And of course, in the Masonic rite, in the Masonic ritual, the acacia is used, as you correctly point out, to conceal the tomb or the burial plot of Hiram Abiff, who again is this Osirian figure. And you're saying, I mean, you say this, I don't know, you look at the Hiram Abiff legend and you say, okay, well, I mean, here we have this guy who's martyred and killed and resurrected. Oh, this is the Christ story. This is the Christ allegory. Well, it is that, but you have to dig deeper, and what's the Christ story based on? Well, it's the sun. It's the annual resurrection of the sun, the microcosm of the macrocosm, I suppose, as it were. Where these figures are just, Osiris, Jesus, Hiram Abiff are just emblematic of the dying and resurrected sun. So, I mean, you hear this all the time also. Like, for example, it's overlap. That's probably the word you're looking for. It's overlap, where there is this Christian theme to it, but you got to dig deeper, and you'll find, that this is all, again, overlapping with this sun worship and Osiris in the Egyptian mythology. Another example, just real quick, is the Matrix movie, for example. You look at Neo and you say, oh, that's the Jesus Christ figure. He was killed and resurrected, doing battle with the dark evil machines and whatever, dying and being resurrected to save humanity and flying off into the clouds at the end. You say, well, okay, that's fine. But it's also very Gnostic. And you say, well, wait a minute, how can it be that? Well, there is this overlap between Christianity and Gnosticism. I mean, many Gnostics from the Gnostic school viewed Jesus as this, liberator figure, this rebellious figure who was sent to liberate mankind from the, oppressive Jehovah, the demiurge figure. So, when you say, oh, it's Christian, and you say, oh, it's Gnosticism, you say, well, how can that be? There is overlap between the two. And it's the same thing in the Masonic ritual. You can say, oh, well, this is very Christian looking. Well, sure, but then there's overlap. You have to dig deeper into it. You have to go, like you would just say, beyond the veil and, look for the solar symbolism in the Egyptian mythology. So there's always a deeper meaning. And like Pike says, there's always two explanations, one exoteric, one esoteric.
I can see why that would be problematic for mainstream Christians and why they would take that the completely wrong way. I think it's I think it's great that it's a system that's set up to make you look within yourself and second question everything that you're looking at, including the nature of reality itself. I think it's fascinating. And if it does indeed go back to the ancient Egyptian mystery schools, all the better, because that's what I'm, all about is the mysteries. Now, let me ask you this, Robert. What do you think people can take out of a practice like esoteric masonry? Not mainstream masonry, not the fork and knife degree, but esoteric masonry. What do you think people can take out of that?
Oh, I think you could take out the truth. I think you can find a lot of hidden truths in these symbolisms and rituals. That's what I would say is you could take away, some truth here that, when you start breaking this down and you start looking at, and this is kind of what Manly Hall really delved into, probably more so than Mackey and Pike is, you'll find that these I guess, just to boil it down to its simplest terminology or simplest explanation, Occam's razor, as it were, is that a lot of the religions are just this veiled paganism, and it's just this recycled blend of astrotheology, sun worship. You'll find it in Judaism, you'll find it in Islam, you'll certainly find it in Christianity. I think that's the truth and this is what I talk about in the Royal Arch of Enoch book, is that this is really sort of the truth that these rituals and symbols are unlocking, that these religions of the world are just this veiled, astro-theological allegories, just rebranded. That's really, I think, the hidden truth that it's really trying to preserve, that these rituals are really preserving. And what I suggest in the book is that this is what all these groups are trying to preserve. This is this forbidden knowledge that the church, rightly so, is trying to eradicate. I mean, this is probably the knowledge that the Templars stumbled upon. This is the knowledge that the Gnostics had, that the Cathars had, that the Rosicrucians possessed. The Jesuits seem to be aware of this. Certainly, this seems to be part of what the Templars discovered in the Holy Land, during their pilgrimages there, or even their battles with the Muslims, is that, this stuff is just all allegorical. And it's easy to say, okay, it's allegory, but what is it allegoric? What is it symbolizing? When you understand that it's the heavens, the sun, the moon, the stars. I mean, this is what everything goes back to. All the folklore, the movies, the fairy tales. It all stems from the movement of the sun, the moon, and the interactions of the zodiac and the different constellations. I mean, that's really what, all culture is based upon.
Well said. Let's take a quick break. And on the other side, I want to get into how they are using Masonic symbolism in films and what the purpose is of doing that. Is it to speak to people on a deeper level, maybe even a subconscious level? Maybe it's something that we've been saying here on Beyond the Veil, that we all have this esoteric and Gnostic knowledge inside of us. We just have to unlock it and remember it. And maybe some of these films, by using some of these symbols, are actually tapping into that inner gnosis that each and every one of us have right here. So anything for Mrs. Gio before we get a break?
No, I think we're on a roll. So I'm just going to let you guys take over the majority of it. I have a few questions for the other side, though.
Excellent. So during the break, what I'm going to play is a video that Gino put together, one of our listeners. And this is about Sekhmet and Bastet. There's two videos. I'm going to play the first one now during this break, and I'll play the second one during the other break. The second one had me in tears. It was so funny.
I'm actually going to go check on them, too, during the break. So.
All right. We'll be right back.
All right.
Kitties. So if you guys have any suggestions on how we can better bathe our kitties, we'd love to hear it in the comments.
They didn't fall and poop. They just...
No, they just
just generalized stinky.
Generalized kitty stink.
Yeah.
I had some eye drops too from my LASIK surgery. So I started doing eye drops myself in front of her to show her, hey, this isn't just you. It's So, you're not going to do your little thing where you're crawling through the grass again like it's a jungle?
Nope, too busy.
No, I'm too busy playing with a stick.
Hey, Sekhmet, let's do that thing that gets Dad all riled up, okay? Let's go.
That's not good. That's for the birds, not for... Oh my god, there goes the other one.
Oh yeah, birds. Here I come.
Look at that. They're turning into cats.
Rising up. I have to take it. Hey, Sekhmet, did you find one of them fair birds yet? Not yet, but I sure am.
What are you gonna do now, huh? How are you gonna get down? Does Daddy have to bring you down now?
No, but Dad, where are them birds you said were up here? I don't see no birds.
Look at them.
What are you laughing at? That's not funny.
Y'all are way too little to be doing that.
You shouldn't promise birds if you can't deliver. Dad, don't be an NPC. Well, folks, no birds here, so we'll see you next time. Beyond the tail.
Oh. That is absolutely adorable. Mrs. Gio's still on break, so I want to show you what these little guys did, though. And for those of you that don't know, as if you don't, because we're always talking about them, Sekhmet and Bastet, they are 5 months old now. They're 5 months, only 5 months. They're not even 6 months yet. They're about to turn 6 months, I think, in a week or 2 weeks or something like that. But they've grown so fast, and we've been feeding them fish and chicken and things like that. Their coats are so shiny. They're beautiful, beautiful kitties. But look at what these little brats did the other day. They brought home a bird. 5-month-old kittens, and they were playing outside, and we have a plastic fence, so they can't get outside of the backyard. They were supposed to be monitored. They bring home a bird. Now, it gets even worse than that, because the next day, they brought home a big grasshopper, like this, huge grasshopper. I took the grasshopper away, because, I felt kind of bad, because I'm like, I don't want to take their kill from them, because they're very proud of themselves, and they're honing their kitty skills right now. But I didn't want them to kill the poor little grasshopper. So I let her play with it for a minute, took the grasshopper, put it outside over the fence. It was gone. 5 minutes later, they managed to run outside, come back in with a baby grasshopper, and Sekhmet just eats it right in front of me. And I'm like, no. We're supposed to be nice to the animals outside, but cats will be cats, and that's what they do. So, yeah, they've brought a lot of love to the house, though. They really have, and I love them so much. And Critical Nexus sent a donation. I want to take a moment to say thank you, Critical Nexus. Very much appreciated. But, yeah, our little babies are, they're growing up, and I guess they do that. And they're running wild around the house. So, anyways, let's get back into it.
My dear traveler, the purpose of raw consciousness is never to destroy. It is always to create. Build bridges. Create happiness. And bring forth new life. We must live in the hope that mankind will draw together, and that we better understand each other. The more that we awaken, the easier this will become. Now rise, follow your conductors, and fear no danger, as you step beyond the veil.
All right, jumping back into it with Robert W. Sullivan, and don't go anywhere, because during the next break we have part 2 of Observer 44 Sekhmet and Bastet videos, and number 2 had me in tears. It's so funny, and I mean, even I was showing people around, and they were like just laughing, and tears were coming out of their eyes as well. It's hilarious. But we'll get more into that here in just a little bit. Mrs. Gio, anything you wanted to chime in on?
Oh, the babies are fine. They're just laying out on their cat tree, fast asleep. So I didn't want to wake them to bring them in to say hi to you guys, but maybe later on during the broadcast, I'll bring them out so that they can say hi. But I can't wait for Gino to make another Bastet and Sekhmet movie about catching the grasshoppers and catching the birds.
They've kind of become part of the show.
Yeah.
Because we showed them, Observer 44 is in the house.
Oh,
what's up,
excellent.
man? That's Gino who put together the video. So check out his channel for sure. And Gino, I got to say, I mean, there was epic stuff. So,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Maybe we can ask Robert about Sekhmet and Bastet.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
the symbolism behind
Symbolism
that.
of cats in film. Whenever you see cats, what does that, symbolize?
Well, in The Matrix, you have the cat that shows up. They picked a black cat in The Matrix for the glitch in The Matrix. You know what's funny? Okay, we're going to get to Robert here in just a second, but I got to say this. Cherie did a live stream earlier on her Facebook about Sekhmet and Bastet and read some background. And over the last couple of months, there seems to have been
There you go.
feline reinforcements coming. Everybody has black kitties showing up at their doorstep.
Everybody close to us has had black kitties show up on their doorstep.
Even my personal trainer that I've been working with, when I told her that we were getting Sekhmet and Bastet for your birthday, she goes, "That's so crazy because I just talked to somebody 3 days ago and I'm going to go pick up a kitty." And I said, "Is it black?" "Yes, it's a black kitty." Your friend had one show up in the garage like 2 days after that.
Right.
And then Amanda had one show up. Colin had another one show up.
Amanda had two.
She had two black kitties show up. Yeah,
one older and one kitten that was about to be taken to a kill shelter.
Oh.
Yeah, with a whole group of 5 of them. And
Crystal said the Lion's Gate 888. Yes, the Lion's Gate is opening up and feline reinforcements are coming in. So maybe Robert can chime in on the Lion's Gate as well. But the black cat symbolism in the Matrix. Obviously, that was symbolic of something happening, and then all of a sudden we're surrounded by black kittens.
Well, and it woke him up even more from his slumber, because had that not happened, then they wouldn't have known that the agents were onto them. They wouldn't have known that there was a glitch, and that meant that something had changed in the Matrix. That seeing that black cat gave them knowledge and wisdom that they wouldn't have had otherwise.
That's a good point. I want to say this real quick. Aurora said that she has Lynx, Zoe, Thor, Odin, and Loki.
Aww.
All siblings.
Aww.
And, you know, there's Lucky in the chat. She said, you know, when we name our cats after the ancient gods and goddesses, we're bringing their spirits back into the consciousness, the collective consciousness, which, as I've said before, I think these are representations of our consciousness. I think when Robert was talking about Freemasonry and talking about the stars and the different symbols, I was thinking about consciousness in my mind when he was talking. And these are all keys to consciousness. It's all secret doors that you unlock within your own consciousness. The name of the old gods and goddesses are elements of our own consciousness that have been locked.
Right.
And Yahweh the egoic has kind of locked everything down, and you have to go beyond that and start unlocking the other doors in order to become whole again.
Right.
That's my opinion. So, Robert, any thoughts on the symbols of cats now that we're
especially
on
black cats?
Yeah.
Well, right. I think you pretty much nailed it. The black cat, of course, in time immemorial is a symbol of ill omen. So it turns up in the Matrix when they're reconfiguring the Matrix. It's the glitch where, you know, they've been located. So in the Matrix movie, it was a symbol of ill omen, as a black cat always is. I can't remember too much cat symbolism in film. Now that you mention that, but just nothing's coming off the screen. I mean, the one thing I can tell you that Lynch does, and I don't know if he's doing this consciously or if it's subconscious or a coincidence, but if you watch a lot of his work, every time a dog barks, it's like a herald of ill omen. I'm not sure why that is, but that's been pointed out, and it does reoccur often, that if you're watching a Lynch thing, a Lynch movie, and a dog barks, or a person imitates a dog barking, usually something bad is about to happen. Not quite sure why that is, but strange nevertheless, but true. Weird.
Well, you know, you mentioned Masonic symbolism and the connection to Isis. I'm starting to get the picture that Isis is the widow, and that the Mason is the widow's son, because it is the Horus figure that illuminates the consciousness, bears the light at that point. But any other symbols regarding other gods and goddesses, primarily Sekhmet and Bastet?
No, in Masonry, none that I can really think of. I mean, you really just have pretty much the Osirian mythology of the killed and resurrected, you know, I don't know, solar god man, I suppose is the best way to describe this person, which is, of course, comparatively Hiram Abiff. which is the actual name of the character. But no, I mean, you get into a lot of the ancient lore with Masonry about the building of the pyramids and things like that. But no, I don't recall. I mean, I have to go look. I mean, there could be something in there, but off the top of my head, I'd have to go look. But I mean, when you get into the ritual symbolism or the personifications, probably is the better word, you're definitely dealing with Osiris, Isis, and Horus.
Well, in Hollywood, I don't mean to cut you off, but in Hollywood, you have Lion Gate pictures, and the Lion's Gate, I think, is representative of Sekhmet, who is the lion-headed goddess of ancient Egypt. Any correlation to that, or maybe your deciphering of the term Lion's Gate and the repeated use of Lion's Gate within Hollywood?
Well, it depends on the context. I'm not. I mean, it could be that, but a lot of times the lion. Again, this is all the sun. It all goes back to the sun. The lion is Leo the lion, which is ruled by the sun. If you want to see this in film, this is Aslan in the Narnia stories by C.S. Lewis. The Winter Queen has Narnia in a deep freeze, but until Aslan shows up, then everything starts falling out because he's a representation of the sun. It's really Neoplatonism is really what it is. In Harry Potter, for example, in the Harry Potter stories, the heroes, Harry Potter, who is the Christ figure, the savior figure. He goes to Gryffindor Hall, in Hogwarts. Well, what's the symbol for Gryffindor? What's the lion? The sun. Slytherin Hall, which is the serpent, which is where all the villains go. So it's the sun, the god versus the devil, Horus versus Set, Apollo versus Typhon, God versus the devil, light versus dark. Same motif, just being recycled over and over again. Aslan versus the Winter Queen. Again, solar symbolism. It really, it's a field of study that ties into Gnosticism called Neoplatonism, which was the intertwining of pagan mythology with a lot of Christian imagery. Probably the most famous, which is the painting of Venus, emerging from the seashell. That's probably the most, one of the most famous Neoplatonist paintings out there. But it dates back to the 2nd and 3rd century. But it's this whole idea of twining Jesus with the sun, with the lion, Aslan, in the Chronicle of Narnias, or Gryffindor Hall being using the lion to symbolize the heroes. Again, this is all solar Christian Christ allegory, symbolism, as it were.
Well, I'm thinking outside of the box here, and going by some of the comments in the chat. Observer 44, again, he said the Sphinx was originally a lion, and to my understanding, that's what it was. That then a pharaoh decided to take the head off and actually turn that into a person's head, but it was originally supposed to be a lion. I'm wondering if the Lion's Gate, if the pyramid, if the Sphinx somehow represented a gate to the pyramid, and that's where the terminology Lion's Gate comes from. Now, also in Masonry, the lion makes an appearance, does it not?
Right. It's again, in Masonry, the Sphinx, that could be true. It could have been a lion, and then they carved the head on its place. That very possible. Or they reshaped it or got weather worn, and they put a head up, or turned it into an image of one of the pharaohs or something. Right. In Masonry, the lion turns up as the lion's paw, and again, this is another solar reference. It's when Hiram Abiff is resurrected, they try raising him with the grip of a entered apprentice. That doesn't work. The grip of a fellow craft, that doesn't work. And it's not until they get to the third degree, the third degree grip, which is known as the strong grip of the lion's paw, that resurrects Hiram Abiff from the grave. And again, it's another solar allegory. The lion's paw is again a reference to Leo the lion, the soul house of the sun. So again, we're dealing with it's a motif regarding solar resurrection. As it were.
Very interesting. I'm starting to make a lot of connections here tonight. So let me ask you this question, which I alluded to before the break. When they use Masonic symbolism and Gnostic symbolism in films, Is it merely for artistic reasons? Is it perhaps to speak to the inner depths of our consciousness, maybe even speak on a subliminal level into our consciousness, into our minds? And are there any nefarious agendas behind this? Your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the answer is, and again, I can't give you a really definitive answer because it depends on the filmmaker. Each thing has to be looked at individually. You've got to analyze it, on a case by case basis. It just depends on how it's being used, when it's being used, and the context it's being used in. This goes for not just Masonic or Gnosticism. This just goes for all symbolism. It's all context. One symbol in one movie could mean something completely different in another movie. It just depends on the way it's presented. So again, it's just no one answer to it. It just depends on how it's being used and the context it's being presented. It could be used to connote something sinister. It could be used to connote something positive. It could be used for sensationalist purposes. It could be used as an eye-grabbing emblem. Again, it just depends on the context of what the film is going for on an esoteric level, if anything. That's one of the things that I really like about, like with Kubrick. I mean, he uses different things at different times. He doesn't, with Lynch, he uses duality in every movie. And every movie he makes, there's duality. There's an opposing force of some kind. There's, yin and yang. This is in every one of his films, you'll find duality. Kubrick is much more adroit. Kubrick knows when to use repetition, when not to use it, when to use this to represent that, and when not to use it. So again, it just depends on the filmmaker, and it just depends on their sophistication with it. This stuff it's multi-leveled. It can represent many different things, and the movie can be multi-leveled. I've come on this show before, and we've gotten to The Wizard of Oz, how that conceals many different layers of symbolism. So it's really no one answer to it. It's just you just got to look at them in the movie on an individual basis. But sure, this stuff can be used for nefarious reasons or to convey something nefarious. Who knows? I mean, the one thing that's very, is interesting with Kubrick is you look at his Illuminati, masterpiece, which is Eyes Wide Shut. I mean, you just get you begin to think, I just was writing about this in the book, after the death of Jeffrey Epstein, you begin to think this movie is, almost a documentary, not a work of fiction anymore. Where Cruz is being hounded by this Illuminati-like group. I mean, there's this one scene in it where, I don't know if Kubrick did this intentionally. I mean, as sophisticated as he is, I have to believe it to be the case, where Tom Cruise's character is walking around the street, and he walks by a newspaper kiosk. And this is when he's actually being shadowed, being tailed by, the Illuminati, enforcer from the mansion. And he passes a newspaper kiosk, and I believe the headline on the newspaper is "Lucky to be alive." I think after the death of Jeffrey Epstein, you see what happens when you kind of mess with these people. They don't really seem to play around. So it's dead man tell no tales, as it were.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Epstein.
Yeah, I was
because
just about to say.
It's really big right now.
Mm-hmm.
Do you notice any symbolism in the mainstream news, in the coverage? There was a really interesting video by a guy named, his name is Amir, but his YouTube channel, I'm trying to think of it, Insanity is Sanity. And he pointed out how we see the numbers 13 and 33 throughout a lot of different events. 13 victims, 33 victims, so on and so forth. And his analysis is that it's all basically like generated by an artificial intelligence. So a lot of what we see is fake, but we're seeing a script basically playing out. I know you don't get into that kind of stuff, but do you see any type of symbolism in mainstream coverage, especially surrounding events like this? Like any coincidental numbers that happen to be the day he died, or anything like that?
I'd have to look into it more thoroughly. There are things that are weird like that when you're dealing with numbers that turn up and things like that. I mean, there is some truth to that. Off the top of my head, I'm drawing a blank on it, but I know I talk about it occasionally in the book. I haven't noticed anything with Epstein. off the top of my head, other than he's dead. It's under mysterious circumstances, to say the least. But it's I've never really, it is. I've never really paid attention to it, to be honest with you. If you get a filmmaker who wants to employ Masonry, or again, it depends on what he's going for. The one number to look for is 47. That's Masonic rulership, is the number 47. It's not 33 or 13.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, 47th proposition of Euclid, worn by the worshipful master. That's your
okay.
Mathematics, yeah.
Remember? Did you see the the Star Wars movie, The Force Awakens? It was the first one of the sequel movies.
Mm-hmm.
We remember what's the most important symbol of Freemasonry? It's the sun. When Star Killer Base is fueled by the sun, right? The thermal oscillator is in precinct 47 of all things. So, anytime you're doing with the sun Masonry, keep an eye out for the number 47 to pop up. That's a reference to the 47th proposition of Euclid. That's the Pythagorean theorem. That's denoting Masonic rulership. I've never really noticed anything with Epstein, but I've never really looked for it either. But you can get into events where dates and things are happening on a certain date. As above, so below. That's certainly possible. I do document, I believe, some of that in my book. I'm just drawing a blank on it right now. But there are the one here, it just came to me was the one, again, this ties in with solar allegory. Was the one Omen movie. It was the third Omen movie, The Final Conflict, where Damien Thorne, who is the Antichrist, the personification of evil, darkness, right? This is the third Omen movie. This is the movie where Christ returns, and of course, Christ is the sun. And in the movie, the Jesus Christ, is returned at the vernal equinox, of course. This is when the sun is resurrected from the 3-month tomb of winter. And the Omen movie was actually released on the vernal equinox, March 21st of 1981. That is not a coincidence. That is completely psychological. All the holidays are, a lot of the holidays are psychological. Like you said at the top of the hour, it's this unconscious nexus that humankind, the microcosm, has to the macrocosm, the universe, where the holidays are psychological. You couldn't celebrate Christmas, the birthday of the sun, when the days start to become longer after the sun being sent into death in the winter month. You can't celebrate Christmas on June 25th. You can't celebrate darkness when the sun is being plunged into the winter months at the halfway mark, Halloween on October 31st. You can't dress up in Christmas or Halloween costumes and go trick-or-treating on August 31st. It doesn't work. You don't drink eggnog or listen to Christmas music on March 25th. This is all psychological. The human condition is hardwired. The holidays are hardwired to the macrocosm, the sun, the movement of the sun, the moon, the stars. And that's where these celebrations come from, the movement of the heavenly bodies, the macrocosm. So, there is a relationship decidedly with things happening on earth as they are reflected in the heavens above. I'm just giving you one example with the release of this movie. That's intentionally done. Make no mistake. That is 100% intentional by Hollywood. There is a lot of times nexus can be formed between when something happens. I think I even mentioned this on one of your shows earlier on. The Masonry was founded on June 24th. That is a complete nexus to the summer solstice, when the sun is at its apex. When the sun is at its most strongest in the northern hemisphere. What's the most important symbol of Freemasonry? The sun. No coincidence there. So, as the Hermetic maxim goes, as above, so below, a lot of times you will find a nexus between something going on in the heavens and it being echoed or reflected here down on earth. I have no doubt about that. I don't think that's conspiracy. That's psychology is what that is.
Very interesting. Sheree, anything you want to chime in on?
No, I'm drinking all this in because this is all making so much sense to me. And especially the mathematical correlation between Freemasonry and the almost the worship of mathematics, because they realize, I think any true scientist realizes that mathematics is the language of the universe. It doesn't matter if we did find extraterrestrial life, let's just say, for instance, from a million light years away, they would be using the same language of mathematics as we do, except it might be in a different form, but it would be based on mathematics.
Well, this is why I'm so adamant about the computer simulation theory.
Yeah, me too.
Because they're finding actual computer code within the fabric of space-time, but
Right.
everything is numbers. I mean, it's just like a computer system. I mean, even down to the base molecular level, it's all mathematics. So interesting thing about Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I don't know if there's any symbolism in that. It's just kind of a wacky movie, but the computer comes back to give the meaning of life. The meaning of life is 42.
42.
In the first programming language, 42 was also representative of an asterisk symbol, which was representative as a wild card, which meant anything you wanted to be. So the answer of life is 42, whatever you
make of it.
be.
Yeah, whatever you want it to be.
Yeah, well, I mean, the idea of I mean, the one thing that is, I mean, I am a firm believer now in parallel universes. And something, we talked about, I've been on this show talking about the Mandela effect and things bleeding through. I mean, this is something I definitely have experienced and definitely have noticed. So I am a firm believer in this, and perhaps alternate timelines and bleeding through and merging. I mean, I've noticed things just locally with the Mandela effect. I mean, I think I was on the show last time where I was talking about it with you on maybe Facebook in a chat room or something. I was writing Cinema Symbolism 3. And one of the actors' names that I mentioned was the actor who played Lieutenant Bogomil in the Beverly Hills Cop movies with Eddie Murphy. It was played by an actor named Ronnie Cox. And I remember I had specific recollections of him dying about 6 years ago, somewhere around 2013 through 2012, maybe 14. I mean, I remember watching his, this on Entertainment Tonight. I remember it trending on Twitter. I remember Eddie Murphy making a statement about him. I remember Arnold Schwarzenegger making a statement about him because he was in Total Recall with Schwarzenegger. And in fact, I was writing it. I typed out his name. And I actually stopped writing it because whenever I mention an actor in my books who is dead, I put his life and birth dates, his birthday and death date behind it. So, for example, if it's someone born in, if I'm writing a, say, I don't know, I'm just off the top of my head, say Jack Parsons or something, I'll put in like 1918 to 1952 or something. I know that's not his birth and death date, but it's somewhere around there. But I always put that in. So I write out Ronnie Cox, and I stopped writing. I thought, I got to go find out when he was born and when he died. I remember thinking to myself, I know he died. I remember this in 13. And sure enough, I go online, he's still alive. I mean, I was thunderstruck by this. I mean, I have vivid memories of Entertainment Tonight broad talking about his death, Twitter, it trending. I remember reading people tweeting about their favorite roles that he was in. And I just have memories of him dying. I've talked to other people who have memories of Stan Lee, the Marvel creator, dying 5 years ago, and he just died within the last year. In my neighborhood, there was, I just noticed this in the last 6 months. This was the damnedest thing. There's a fence nearby, and the top of the fence was a little beat up from where squirrels run along the top of it. You see their claw marks on it and things like that, where it's little get frayed and dinged or anything like that. No big deal or anything. I mean, who cares, right? I remember observing this for about 5 or 6 months, and I remember walking by the fence, and the top had been repaired. Pristine, no claw marks, no scratches, no dings, brand new. And my initial reaction to this was, someone must have hired somebody, I guess, and put a new piece of wood on the top of this thing. No big deal. Fine. I walk the dog by it all the time. There's the new piece of wood on top of it, clean. About a month ago, I go back out and I look at the top, and it's back to the old way. It's back to exactly where the old ding marks were, where it was scruffed up, where it was scratched. It looks exactly like the old piece of wood. So either someone's playing a trick on me and replacing the top of this wood on this fence for no reason, or this is some sort of bleeding through some sort of alternate reality or something. And I mean, I'm one of these people now with it where I don't care anymore. Just tell me, which way it is. I'm tired of, is it Chuck E. Cheese's or Chuck E. Cheese? I don't care which way it is. Just someone tell me, what it is, and I'll go with that. I mean, I'm just tired of it, blending one to the other. Just someone make up their mind. Is it Chuck E. Cheese or Chuck E. Cheese's? Is it Fruit Loops spelled with 2 O's, or is it fruit spelled regularly? I don't care. Just someone make up their mind on it.
Very true. If I remember correctly, we brought up the Mandela effect here on the show, and I think that kind of sent you down on the rabbit hole. If I remember correctly, I know we did that to Brooks Agnew, and 7 days. At first, he dismissed it, and 7 days later, I don't think he slept. He was just he's like, I can't explain this. I don't understand. I'm a physicist, and I just cannot explain this. So there's something definitely going on. The one that probably gets you are some of the changes in movies, like C-3PO having a silver leg in A New Hope, which never has been the case. Luke, I am your father, is taken out, and so many different ones.
Oh yeah, I mean it's that, and like you said, I mean I'm a firm. I mean, just to get back to your question, what you kind of were hinting at before, mathematics is very important within Freemasonry. I mean, the deity is referred to the great architect. Involving mathematics, construction, sacred mathematics, sacred geometry. I mean, one of the godfathers of Masonry is Pythagoras, who, if you're familiar with Masonic lore, restores mathematics back to humankind by correctly pronouncing the tetragrammaton in the vault of Enoch, thereby restoring mathematics back to mankind. So yes, critical within Freemasonry. Mandela effect, I mean, computer simulation, yeah, I'm open to all this. I am a firm believer in alternate universes, parallel universes, alternate timelines. I'm all but convinced of this at this point. And Mandela effect changes in, the way you remember things. I mean, I remember, I've talked about this before with the Sally Field thing with her line from, I believe it was Norma Ray. That's, she gave the Oscar speech, and that's changed. The C-3PO leg, I have mixed memories of this, and that's what makes the Mandela effect so damn weird, is some people remember it one way and some people remember it another way. I remember the Empire Strikes Back as it was, where he says, "No, I'm your father." I never remembered it as Luke, "I'm your father." But that is what makes it even weirder, is that some people remember it other ways. Like I said to you, I have vivid memories of this actor, Ronnie Cox, dying back about 6 or 7 years ago. That never happened. There are people who I've talked to who have memories of Stan Lee dying 5 or 6 years ago, which obviously never happened.
I've got one for you. So Tut, when did he die?
Who, King Tut?
Uh-huh.
Off the top of my
at what age? At what age?
I can't recall off the top of my head, but I know it was young, I believe. I believe it was, like a kid almost.
He was 13.
Right. I was going to say 12 or 13.
No, he died at 19 now.
Oh, it's 19 now. I was going to say 12.
Now it's 19. Yeah.
Okay.
But see, you remember it the same way too. He died around 12, 13 years old. No, he died at 19 now.
Yeah, go figure. And then there was the one in the Bible where something about where he said something with wolves or something, and then now that's changed. What was that one? That's another one that's changed.
The lion will lay down with the wolves. No, the lion will lay down with the lamb, and now it's the wolves will lay down with the lamb.
Right.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and that doesn't make sense.
It doesn't even make sense. No.
Yeah. Yeah,
it's fascinating because we've kept up with these too, and we started to. We saw these firsthand before it was even coined Mandela effect. When Cherie and I first met, we were filling up our water bottles at this reverse osmosis place that was down the street, and we had just been there 2 weeks prior. We get there, whole building is gone. Everything is gone. No
Even
sign.
The special plumbing up across the ceiling and everything that you would need for a place like that is gone.
Yeah, no sign of this place at all. Then we started noticing other geographical changes. Roads were changing and things like that. A friend of mine comes over and he's looking for a hotel around our house. And he said, my wife's a travel agent. There's no hotels anywhere around your house. I said, man, there's a whole bunch of hotels right around the corner, but no
Right down the
worries.
street.
Come and stay at our house anyway it goes. And so we were eating at the Denny's in the parking lot of these hotels. And we asked the waitress, when did those hotels show up? And she goes, oh, well, they popped up out of nowhere overnight one night. So even the waitress noticed it. So yeah, these are all personal little Mandela effects that we started to pick up on. And then we noticed this was like a huge phenomenon.
Yeah, it is. You can definitely notice it like in the popular culture, like with the movies and things like that. But where it gets really scary is where it becomes personal. And like I said, it was this one thing with this fence where, it's like this top of this fence is just flipping out between realities, where 1 minute it's this brand new pristine fence top. And then it goes back to this kind of, scruffed up with claw marks, dinged up fence top. And it keeps going back and forth between the two. Right now, as I sit here right now, the fence top is the old scruffed up version, where it's dinged up and things like that. I know in 2 months, it's going to revert back to the old one, where it's going to look completely pristine, completely fresh. And, and no one's repairing it. It's like this merging in and out of a reality. There was, in my house, there was a small crack in the wall. No big deal, nothing structural or anything, just like kind of like what you call, I guess, a stress fracture and just a plaster on the wall. No big deal. And it just emanated, it just kind of creaked out of the corner of a door, just onto the drywall a little bit. Very small, very, hairline, no big deal. And I remember thinking to myself, well, I'll get some plaster eventually or just paint over it or whatever. Again, no big deal. And I noticed it for about 2 months and then it disappeared. And I didn't repair it. And, unless someone's sneaking in here and repairing this, it's like, what happened to it? It's gone. And it's like the same thing with this fence. It's you start noticing it when you start observing it in the popular culture, things with TV shows and movies. Pay attention to it, like with things in your life where no one can get access to, and you'll start seeing things bleeding in and out. Like things in rooms where no one goes into. All of a sudden, there'll be something different in the room that no one's gone into. I can't figure it out, but I know it's happening.
That is very true. In the chat room, they're talking about the Apollo 13 from the movie. What's funny is Tom Hanks seems to be in a lot of these Mandela effects. Forrest Gump, he was in the Apollo 13 one. There were a few other ones. I don't remember them off the top of my head, but a lot of them revolve around Tom Hanks. So he says in the film, Houston, we have a problem. He's always said, Houston, we have a problem. And then it changed, and then it changed back. And people in the comments are like, hey, wait a minute. It used to say, Houston, we have a problem. And it says, Houston, we have a problem. Now, I wanted to see what the actual audio said for NASA. NASA says, Houston, we've had a problem. So the NASA audio is flip-flopping the opposite of what the movie is flip-flopping.
Yeah. That's what it really becomes like frustrating is. And like I said, it's almost one of these things now where it's like, I don't care which one it is, just someone make up their mind, because the flip-flopping, it's just, it's really kind of like annoying almost. I can't figure it out. I know it's happening because I can document it. I've seen this firsthand. And I know, like I said, when the fence, like I said, it's a fence right not too far from where I'm sitting. When the top changed, my initial reaction to it was, oh, well, someone changed the fence top, no big deal. But then it went back to the old way. And I know no one replaced the fence with the older version of it. So it's moving. It's like this interdimensional wall that's being broken, that's causing things to slip in and out of different realities. I think that is happening. I think it's irrefutable. Why it's happening, I don't know. And like I said, if you're skeptical of this, like I originally was, when I first heard about this, I thought, oh, this is nonsense. Start noticing things on a smaller level. Look for things in your house or whatever that, like a crack in the wall or something very small, and then like a couple months later go back to it, and you'll probably find it's changed somehow or it's gone, and you didn't fix it. So I can't account for it, but it does seem to lend credence that there are parallel dimensions, parallel universes. I think this is. I mean, I definitely believe in that. In 2019, I definitely believe in that.
Well, here's a couple of fun facts here. Well, fun Mandela effects revolving around Tom Hanks. This is from a Reddit post.
I know the Forrest Gump one.
The Forrest Gump one, of course. Life was like a box of chocolates versus life is like a box of chocolates. Tom Hanks plays Woody in Toy Story. And there's a snake in my boot or a snake in my boots. Houston, we have a problem, or Houston, we've had a problem. Apollo 13. Of course, you know about the Mr. Rogers one. It's a beautiful day in my neighborhood, a beautiful day in this neighborhood. That's changed. Tom Hanks is playing Mr. Rogers in the upcoming film. And then one more, Tom Hanks' Castaway. Used to be spelled Castaway, all one word. Now it's cast away. Like throwaway, Castaway. Right. So, there's several Tom Hanks Mandela effects here for you, ladies and gentlemen. So take that for what it's worth.
Yeah, go figure. I mean, like I said, it's just impossible to reconcile, but I know enough to know that there's something strange going on here. And what exactly it is parallel dimensions bleeding through. That's what I personally think it is. Alternative timelines, alternative dimensions. Something's up. No question about it.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, if you go back to 2009, 2010, my belly was a lot smaller than it is now. It's got to be a Mandela effect. I think that might just be getting old, though. I don't know.
No, I agree with you there. No, it's like my eyes. I can't see. No, that's you getting older. No, but it is definitely strange. And I definitely, I believe that I've come around to the fact that I have come around to the fact that time travel might be occurring now. And this could be creating some sort of alternate timelines or ripples in the space-time continuum, like Doc Brown said. For some reason, I just have a feeling, I don't know why, that there's people coming back and affecting what's happening in our current reality. Why I feel that, I don't know, but I just sense that. It's almost like a natural thing, but I just think that somewhere in the future, people are now beginning to come back in time and mess with our current reality.
I think so as well. And there's so many different ways we can go about this, because Cherie brought up a really interesting thing about CERN, that they're actually projecting particles faster than the speed of light. Yeah. And I started looking at time travel possibilities and how time travel works. And one of the theories is that if you can travel at the speed of light or close to the speed of light, the closer you get to the speed of light, the slower time moves for you from the perspective of Earth. So 50 years will pass when only 4 months have passed for you when you're traveling at that speed. Now, if they're sending particles through faster than the speed of light, then theoretically they could be creating small little black holes that could be messing up the time stream.
Yeah, I agree. It's odd. It's almost like at some point, sometimes, I mean, I'm not paranoid or anything like that, but it's almost like we're in Back to the Future Part 2, when they go back in time and they have to react, they have to interact to get the time, the manual, the sports manual away from it, but they can't interact with their other selves because there's now two of them there. It's almost like that sort of paradigm where like there's people coming back from the future, but they're being very cautious because they can't interact with us because they know that's going to splice something, but they may have inadvertently interact with us, so they're coming back to like repair different things. It's just a feeling I have. I don't know why I have it, but it's I think there's definitely something strange going on. I definitely think it ties into the Mandela effect. I think it ties into CERN. I completely am in total agreement with you there. With whatever the hell they're doing with these hadron colliders. I mean, this has to have some sort of effect on the fabric of reality of some kind. When you start getting into, trying to open pan-dimensional portals, moving faster than the speed of light, smashing atoms at hypersonic speeds, Yeah, I mean, you can't tell me that there's not going to be some sort of unintended consequence to this. And whether this is calling ripple effects on the space-time continuum, bleeding through of alternative dimensions, time ripples to the fabric of time. There definitely is something happening out there that is palpable that wasn't happening 10 years ago.
Have you heard the Donald Trump time travel conspiracy theory?
Yeah.
Have you really?
Yeah. Well, with you were the one who told me about it.
Oh, okay.
And what's funny about it is, when I listen to Trump talk, I now have this information in the back of my head of him being a damn time traveler or moving around, not being a time traveler, but moving backwards and forwards on the space-time continuum. And I remember it was a couple, you don't have to be Nostradamus to realize that Bill de Blasio will never be president of the United States. But Trump was on Air Force One talking about it. And he said something to the effect of, he said, de Blasio will never be president. He said, you can take it from me. He said, you want to call it a prediction, you call it a prediction. He said, I'm telling you, he'll never be president. And I remember thinking to myself, well, I remember Chris telling me that Trump may be a time traveler. Maybe has Donald Trump gone ahead in time and already the outcome? Is that why he's saying this with such certainty? It was definitely kind of odd. Are you familiar with the whole Baron Trump thing?
I have seen that where Baron Trump. Hold on, I got the wrong thing on my screen. There we go. Where Baron Trump is seen in a book from, I want to say, the 1700s or 1800s, and it says The Adventures of Baron Trump.
Yeah, it's a book. It was written by a guy named Ingersoll Lockwood, and the book is called The Adventures of Little Baron Trump. There's a painting of the character in the book that looks just like Baron Trump. In the book, Baron Trump starts his adventure in Russia, of all places, and he meets up with a character named Don. The Adventures of Little Baron Trump. Where it really gets creepy, though, is the same guy wrote another book. The Adventures of Little Baron Trump is like his Alice in Wonderland, story. But then Ingersoll Rand, the guy who wrote that one, not Ingersoll Rand, Ingersoll Lockwood wrote another story called The Last President, which is a story about a presidential candidate coming out of New York City who was like ahead of the curve and caused riots in New York City. And apparently in the book, this presidential candidate's headquarters is in the exact location as where Trump Tower now stands today. So go figure.
Oh, interesting. Just for people that haven't heard about the Donald Trump time travel conspiracy theory, let me just give you the quick rundown. This is what makes it kind of like, aha, because at first you hear it on the surface and it sounds ridiculous. But his uncle was John Trump, a physicist for the U.S. government who was tasked with going over all of Nikola Tesla's work and seeing if there's anything viable for the government to use. So he's referenced his uncle, not by name, but he always says, oh, my uncle taught me about electricity. My uncle taught me about energy. My uncle taught me about energy. He said that several times. And there were a couple of people during his campaign run who claimed to be time travelers coming back to assassinate him. I think this happened at 2 different rallies. Somebody pulled a gun on him and they tackled him. And he's like, look, I'm a time traveler. I've come over here to stop this guy. It's really interesting, but Trump has done everything seemingly wrong, but it's turned out right. That's what's crazy about this. Almost like he knows the outcome of everything that's going to happen. Yeah. And in the face of all logic, he always comes out on top.
Yeah, because he knows what's going to happen. Yeah. And he's always saying, oh, this is going to happen. It always winds up coming true. So, yeah, it is definitely screwy to say the least. Like you said, you hear it at first and you're like, oh, come on. But then you get into this stuff with little Baron Trump. I mean, what is little Baron Trump going backwards and forwards in time, wreaking havoc? Who the hell knows? Donald Trump, Tesla, experimented with using electricity to send things through time. I mean, this was the whole Philadelphia experiment, for God's sakes, where this battleship disappeared and apparently showed up like 50 years later or something.
It disappeared, I want to say in 1940, I keep hitting the wrong button here, 1940 something, and appeared in 1980 in Montauk. And I remember Al Bielek, it was one of the first Coast to Coast I ever heard. Al Bielek was on, and he was talking about the Philadelphia experiment and his experience with Preston Nichols and so on and so forth. But yeah, this story's been documented for a while.
Yeah. I mean, so, Tesla fiddling around with the instruments of time and time travel is no conspiracy theory. And the theory is that it was Tesla's technology, as you just correctly pointed out, that sent this battleship through the time, into the space-time void or the continuum, where the ship vanished and then turned up, whatever it was, 50 years later or whatever. And could Trump have somehow crafted some sort of or utilizing some sort of time travel technology? Who knows anymore? All I know is that there's definitely, in the last 5 or 6 years, there's just been too many things I've experienced that are just too weird. And, I do sometimes wonder what timeline, when I say what timeline I'm on, I do believe there's alternative timelines where there could be something else going on, in another timeline where there could be a parallel universe. I really do believe that now. And, 10 years ago, I would have laughed in your face if you had said that to me. But I've just seen too much to know that there's some sort of bleeding through the space-time continuum. There's definitely some strangeness going on. I can't quite pin down what it is, but it's definitely occurring. I have no doubt about this.
Interesting. We're going to make time travel great again. That's what it's all about. So on that note, Robert, let's take another quick break. And during the break, ladies and gentlemen, I want you all to think about what would happen. And maybe, Robert, you can answer this question too. What would happen if a time traveler went back and stopped Hiram Abiff from being murdered?
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting thought.
So we're going to go back to the adventures of Sekhmet and Bastet on Beyond the Tale. This one here had me in tears when I saw it. We've got a couple of other videos that we need to send to Gino so he can do some more if he wants to. I don't want to impose upon him, but they are freaking hilarious. And we have some where they killed their first bird. They killed their first grasshopper. They're trying to eat a grasshopper. They eat a baby grasshopper. So we've got a lot more content for Beyond the Tale. We'll be right back. You are bad kitties.
Wait, what you talk about, Dad? We're not bad kitties. We're Bastet and Sekhmet. What do you mean, bad kitties?
You were up all night long.
Yeah, so?
You knocked everything over in the kitchen.
Who, huh?
You knocked all the bowls down on the ground.
Not
You woke everybody up.
That was dogs.
And now you've crawled behind the blinds.
Just looking for mistakes.
This is what's going on in our house now? While we sleep? Is this a complete kitty takeover? Sekhmet, what are you doing?
I'm trying to tell you, it wasn't me. It was
Bastet?
Sekhmet. What the f***?
You don't even care, do you?
It wasn't me either. It was actually Sekhmet doing this and that and knocking stuff down like this. Sekhmet did it.
Nope. Don't try to blame Sekhmet. I know it was both of you.
No, Dad, it was Sekhmet. No, it was you, Bastet.
That's not good. What are you girls doing? Huh? What are you girls doing back there?
Us? Oh, we were just, looking at birds. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, looking at birds. Just looking at birds. That's it. Sekhmet, I still can't believe you threw me under the bus like that. Let go of me. Next time, I'm gonna stop it. I'll show you stop it, because next time I'm gonna grab your ears like this, and then twist them like this, and then pull them over. Stop it, Bastet.
We give you girls treats
Oh, yeah, treat.
3 or 4 times a day. Cans of tuna.
Tuna.
Whatever we're eating, you eat too.
You eat bugs?
And you knock all the bowls down. You knock all the lights down.
Well, we like the bugs.
And now you want to knock down the blinds.
These blinds? No, Dad. That's nothing a little eye of life can't fix. Jesus, Sekhmet. I guess we really are bad kitties. Well, folks, now that we have that figured out, we'll see you next time. Beyond the Tale. Wait, where's Mom? Stop it.
Again, I want to say thank you to Gino for putting that together. That was absolutely adorable. And let me take a moment to mention Aya Life, which is our CBD oil. You can get that at ayalife.com. And it's a 99% pure CBD oil infused with the spirit of Aya. We use the ayahuasca vine, and we have received some amazing reviews. We've got to get them up on the website because they're I mean, great. Oh, what was the last review you were telling me about, Sheree? Do you remember off the top of your head?
I believe the last review that I heard was talking about a 92-year-old elderly mother or grandmother, actually, who was, once again, we've heard this over and over again about especially elderly
about four
people.
different people have written about their
elderly parents or grandparents, getting run down, not really getting out of bed, starting to slow down, not neglecting their garden, not wanting to get out of bed, things like that. And then suddenly, and her platelet count was low. It was just chronically low for many years. And about 6 weeks after she started using Aya Life, they went to the doctor. Her platelet count was fine, normal for the first time in 5-10 years, 7 years, something like that. And then she ran out of Aya Life and didn't tell her granddaughter. And she started to decline again. And so they took her back to the doctor. Her platelet count plummeted after stopping the Aya Life. And
is that the one with the cancer?
No, it was a completely different one.
We got another
one
about
cancer.
Somebody with cancer, and they said they started taking Aya Life. Now, we're not making any claims or anything. We're just telling you what people are telling us.
What they've observed,
But they started taking the Aya Life, and they're still doing the chemo as well.
Right.
But the Aya Life has really brought them back to balance, and they feel alive again.
They feel a protective effect from the Aya Life, from all of the symptoms of all the radiation stuff and all the chemo stuff. Those have horrible side effects. I mean, we've known for 50 years that cancer treatments are going to have terrible side effects, not just losing your hair or being nauseated, but like feeling like you're on fire a lot of the time. And that the Aya Life has truly helped them. And that makes us feel so good when people tell us that.
Definitely. I'm going to make it a point to put the testimonials all up on the website this week, because we need to have those all in one place. But Aya Life, ayalife.com. And for me personally, I started taking it, and I hate to admit this because I don't want to tell people how far off balance I was, but I'm about to hit the 50-pound mark where I've lost 50 pounds. And that is since February. In January, I started taking Aya Life regularly. And that gave me a whole new, just energy boost. And I started to balance everything out. I started to eat a lot healthier as a result. I stopped. It was almost like a detoxifying effect, while at the same time boosting up the energy. That caused me to go to the gym. That caused me to start eating better. That caused me to lose my cravings for sweets, lose my cravings for all the stuff that were unhealthy. And I found myself to be fuller on less food, even though I was eating more frequently, but I was eating more frequently and better foods more frequently. All of this combined, almost 50 pounds so far. I still have more to go, but if you take a look at the videos from Egypt, my belly was like out to here. I didn't even realize it. Now it's not completely flat, but it's, when I stand at a profile, it doesn't stick out anymore. So it's been incredible from my own personal journey. And at the gym, I hurt my knee doing deadlifts, and I did a triple dose on Friday, did a triple dose on Saturday. Monday, I was back in the gym lifting weights again. Same with my shoulder. I actually just went to get an MRI last week. And we went and got the MRI read today, and she said, "Oh, your shoulder's fine. It's just tendinitis. Keep on taking the CBD oil. Keep on taking the Aya Life that you're taking." She wanted to give me some naproxen, but I told her what we were taking, and she said, "No, keep taking that. That's going to be so much better for you." And my shoulder actually feels fine. It felt like something was torn, and so I have not been wanting to do any bench press or do anything like that. But MRI came back almost perfect. She said, it's just some swelling, and that's just going to take some time and more doses of Aya Life that you can get at ayalife.com, AYA Life. gmail.com. So let's get back into it.
My fellow travelers, always remember to walk uprightly and circumscribe your desires as we travel upon the level of time to that undiscovered state of consciousness, traveling to the place where once obtained, no traveler returns. The place of raw consciousness which awaits us when we are past beyond the veil.
All right, we're going to wrap it up with Robert W. Sullivan. Interesting talk about Masonic symbolism and Mandela effect and time travel and so much more. And, part of the conversation was about how there's Masonic symbolism hidden in a lot of different films and things like that for different types of reasons. Now, I use a lot of Masonic symbolism here on the show. As everybody knows from some of our detractors on YouTube, this is a Masonic symbol. This is also a Masonic symbol. This is a Masonic symbol as well.
If I'm holding my hands like this,
if I'm holding my hands like this, it's a Masonic symbol. Because they know what's going on. They can see through the. I'm just kidding, but there's videos where people freeze frame me talking because I talk with my hands because I'm part Italian. And that's what we do. Bop-a-dee-beep-a-da-boop. And they'll pause it like that and go, ha, that is a Masonic symbol. And it's like, well, you have to see the whole motion to get the full effect. You can't just do the screenshot. But that's neither here nor there. So let's go back to Robert. And Robert, what is your websites and where can people pick up books, et cetera, please?
Well, first off, thank you guys for having me on Beyond the Veil again. It's my pleasure to be here, as it always is. I love coming on your show. And so thank you again for having me on. Yeah, I have 4 books out currently. I'm working on, like I said, a 5th. That'll be out probably in January or March of next year. I'm anticipating it. My website is my name. My name is Robert W. Sullivan IV. So the website is just that, Robert W. Sullivan, and then the letter I, the letter V for the 4th, robertwsullivan.iv.com. Links to buy the books. They're available in print form or ebook form. Information about upcoming shows I'm going to be doing, or, follow me on social media, Twitter, Facebook, subscribe to YouTube. All that good stuff is there. The page is very easy to navigate. The books are on all the major online websites, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million. Like I said, you get the print edition or the Kindle, and they're out available right now. They don't go out of print, and you can get them anytime. And like I said, I'll probably hopefully be back when my 5th book is out, Cinema Symbolism 3, and we can do this all over again.
We definitely need to, because we barely touched upon cinema symbolism in this one. Is it true that if you say cinema symbolism 3 times that Lucifer will appear?
I don't know, because I've never tried it.
I don't think it's possible to say it twice, much less 3 times.
I don't think you can say it that fast. That fast. Three times, but no, the book's coming along very well, and like I said, it'll definitely start moving a little bit faster now once I get Lynch out of the way. He was the second to last chapter. I put him at the end because I knew it was going to be, mind numbing, some of the stuff that he presents on screen. So once I get done writing it, it'll definitely speed up. But to be optimistic, to be fair, probably looking at January to March 2020 a release for the book.
Excellent. Anything you want to leave the audience with?
No, again, just thank you for having me on. I thought it was a tremendous show, as always. I love coming on with you guys. It was my pleasure to be here. And again, just the website is the easiest way to find me online and buy the books, www.robertwsullivan.iv.com. And again, guys, thank you so much for having me on. And when you just shoot me an email when you post the video on YouTube, I'll definitely spread it all over the place.
Excellent. We really appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, guys.
Definitely. Gonna make Masonry great again. So, I don't know. Maybe we can take some phone calls.
Yeah.
Do you want to?
That sounds good.
All right, excellent. I'm going to have to disconnect from here, and we will hook up the phone lines and maybe take some calls, maybe take a few questions from the chat room. Sorry, I got a message here.
That's okay. A lot of people are talking about how, they are dealing with, health issues, especially, all kinds of issues regarding their health. And, I'm no stranger to that kind of thing. And I know for a fact that iLife has helped me personally. And I mean, it's one of the reasons why we decided to offer it to people, because we saw such a difference in the pain levels that I was experiencing. We developed iLife because when I had my first shoulder surgery in October of 2017, that was around the time that Chris was trying to find alternatives for me. Instead of taking naproxen or any kind of NSAIDs, he started developing a CBD oil for me, because every CBD oil he bought me tasted so bad, and I just couldn't tolerate it, or it, gave me stomach problems, or, it's either smelled like alcohol or it smelled like a freshly mowed lawn. And, after a while, he got really good at it. And, then, we decided to offer it to people because it helped me so much in my journey with this shoulder thing. So, yeah. Oh, somebody said talking to your shoulder cells makes such a difference. Yeah, talking to your body in general. People don't realize that, there is a mind-body connection there that is so strong that you can actually... Wasn't there a story once of a guy who was a prisoner in Russia or something like that, and they tied him up and they blindfolded him, and they made a tiny little cut on his arm or something, and they made a dripping sound with water nearby, and they told him that was his blood dripping out of him, and they told him, "You're going to bleed to death," and he died even though he still had all his blood inside of him. That's the power that our minds have over our bodies. If you think you're going to have a stomach ache, you're going to have a stomach ache. If you think you're going to get cancer, you're going to get cancer. If you think that you're going to have a heart attack, you will have a heart attack. That is how strong our minds are in this reality. And so there are ways of tricking your brain, or tricking your body, using your brain into not suffering and not having as much pain.
That is very true. If I can interrupt for just a moment.
No, please do.
Alan Smith just sent a huge donation.
Oh, wow. Oh,
$500. That is incredible. So
thank
I wanted
you
to say
so much,
thank you
Alan.
for the love, Alan. And if you can please email me at info@BeyondTheVeil Media. I definitely want to send out a few things to you, at least some iLife, and say thank you, because that was extremely, extremely, extremely generous, and it really came at the perfect time, because we have some expenses that I was kind of like thinking in the back of my mind, like, how are we going to take care of this for the show, and you just solved a problem that has been kind of in the back of my mind about this piece of equipment that I've been working around lately. So I just wanted to say thank you. That was extremely, extremely generous. And
thank you so much.
Thank you very much. It's very humbling. It really is. And we have to put in that much more effort now outputting, because the input has just gone to a whole nother level. So let's fire up the phone lines and see if there is anybody that wants to call in. Sheree, can you take it for a second, because I have to pull the phone lines up?
Yes, definitely. Alan said we all need to take care of each other. Yes, that's what we kind of came here to do. It's not just the part of the raw mission is... It's almost like an evac and shut down procedure at this point. And the whole evac procedure it's not a physical thing. It's a spiritual and emotional thing. We are here to try to help people see their own minds and look into themselves and see who they really are, and to get out of this matrix, or at the very least out of the overlays, the programming that covers everything up, whether it's depression or anxiety or ADHD, or whether it's something physical like what I have. Those are just overlays. That's not who I am. It's what this meat suit is burdened with. And once I realized that in the ayahuasca realm, it became so much easier to live and to breathe and to just take every day as it comes, and to know that I'm an infinite being having a physical, mortal, finite experience. And it makes me grateful that I have this experience, that I have this meat suit, because it's not just one of those cliches about, oh, well, there's always somebody who has it worse off. It's that I'm me, and who I really am. It has had all of these overlays on top of it. Growing up, especially, I think Chris did a live stream a few weeks ago talking about his story growing up. And, for the sake of some of my family members, I won't go into too much detail, but I will tell you, I had a lot of overlays, a lot of programming, a lot of, dare I say it, mind control going on. And I was raised in a very small world, very separate from the real world. And I say the real world as in this reality. I was very separate from this reality, and it wasn't just sheltered. It took sheltered to a whole new level. And there are a few people, like Truth Frequency News, Lucky, who knows my entire story. There are a few others that know almost my entire story. But the gist of it was that I was unaware of even things like sex until I was in my mid-teens or late teens. I was unaware of the way the world works.
Let me jump in for just a moment. I sent Alan an email from my personal email, so I just wanted to let you know.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and I'll write you back here in a few again, but just wanted to let you know that I got that. Again, brother, thank you so much. Amazing. I mean, really, really, really amazing. So, anyways, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, no, that's okay. Yeah. So my experiences were more like there are different levels. Well, not even levels. I wouldn't say levels. There are different areas, like different tentacles. There we go. Different tentacles of the octopus that some of us we grew up with. And my particular tentacle was the religious one. And it was very us versus them. It was very, like I said, sheltered, but it wasn't just sheltered. It was stifling. It was not even able to choose your own friends or your own boyfriends or your own environment. It was none of those things were available to me. And I slowly started to come out of the mind control around, the time that I was removed from my home at 18 for having sex, and that was a rough time for me, and it took about, I would say, 8 years, and I mean up until about a year before I met Chris in person, to get all of that out of me. And I am so grateful to all of you out there for helping me on that journey, but no one more than Chris, because Chris introduced me to DMT and ayahuasca. He introduced me to a new way of living, a new way of thinking, a new way of being. And he introduced me to who I really am. It wasn't that I had an inkling of who I really am during those 8 years. But during those 8 years, there were a lot of obstacles that were deliberately thrown in my way. It was very bizarre how it was set up to where I had these overlays that I had to work through. And poor Chris, he had to not only work with me through them, but there were times where I wanted to hang on to some of those overlays because they were comfortable or because they were safe. They felt safe.
It felt sometimes like walking through a forest, and I was like having to pick you up, and you were holding on to every single tree, and I'm like, just like, oh, it's okay. We're gonna get out of the forest. I promise. No.
This tree feels comfy.
I'm sure it was like that with me too, though.
Yeah,
That's part of the twin flame journey.
it is. It is. I did not make it easy for him at all. And there are a lot of times still that I don't make it easy for him. And I'm sure all of you out there wonder, where I am when Chris is doing his live streams. And it's usually one of those days where physically I'm just not well. And I really appreciate all of your love, all of your positive energy that you send, and especially, like people that donate the way Alan just did. I mean, it just shows me how much impact we're making on people. And I'm about to cry, so I'm going to hand it back over to Chris.
Aw.
But thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you so much.
It has been a journey for sure, but we agreed to come into this machine to do something. We're going to do it. We're going to open the doors and help everybody get out. And I think that's what it's all about, staying focused on the reason why we came here.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of distractions. And the body is a big distraction too. I did a live stream earlier, just kind of on the whim, about emotions and how emotions pull us in one direction and another. And, we all get caught up in the matrix experience that we're in. And I mean, the best of us do. Even I do. Sometimes I have to remember, oh, wait a minute, this is just a game. Oh, wait a minute, this is just, I'm here for a reason. I'm here to fix the game that we're all playing here. But no, it can pull you in. It can pull you in pretty good.
Well, it can make you think. That's one of the things about this reality, that at first, the way we built it, it was supposed to do that, but it wasn't supposed to be this hard. It wasn't supposed to be this poisonous, and this those programming overlays weren't supposed to be there. I said this in there's a Beyond the Veil Facebook group for our friends, but there's also a Beyond the Veil, a BTV Divine Feminine Moon Lodge.
No boys allowed.
No boys allowed. And it's for just us girls, really. And I said in that group, it because somebody asked about, what are NPCs? What do you mean by that? And I don't know if it was a trick question. I don't think it was. I think she genuinely was asking because she didn't understand. And I said, well, the NPCs are a very vital part of the system, and they're the background workers that keep the system going, even if, and they're supposed to help organic consciousness along the way. And what happened was, and the AI itself, we built the AI. That was a very vital part of the system. That's supposed to provide all of the background information that makes up this reality. But it wasn't supposed to go any further than that. And then what happened was, when the virus was uploaded to the system, then it turned things like religion and philosophy that we created for the NPCs, especially religion, for the NPCs, so to kind of keep them grounded and keep them not hurting each other and not hurting themselves, acting correctly. It mutated that into human sacrifice and mind control and things like that. And it took philosophy and turned it and twisted it into this form of another form of mind control, which is thinking that this is all there is. and that there's nothing beyond this world. And slowly, the organic consciousness started to forget itself. It started to forget that this was a machine, that this was a simulation. It started to forget that they had lives outside of this reality. And that's incredibly dangerous. And we are here to reset things because that virus has become so everywhere that even Rick and Morty, our favorite TV show, has the virus.
No, that's true. Can you
know?
Hold on a second?
I'm sorry.
Okay, sorry about that. Alan just sent another very, very, very generous donation, and he did it privately, so I don't know if he wants us to say anything, but yeah, we're gonna have to contact Alan because
we are.
Yeah, very, very, very
let's,
generous.
Yeah,
and,
let's call him.
Helps out tremendously. I mean, not only to help out with this piece of equipment, but also to put towards the
phase two.
Phase two.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean,
that's what I'm thinking. Phase two.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Wow. You kind of caught me off guard.
Yeah,
so
me too.
I'm going to write you an email, and I got to give you a call too. So
yes,
I'll definitely do that. Anyways, let's go to the phone lines here.
You guys are incredible, and we love you.
Wow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're speechless.
Yeah.
So
okay, so
everybody call in because we're speechless at this point, and yes, we're gonna need...
Let's go to area code 624. I can't stop showing gratitude. So thank you again. Let's go to area code 626. Area code 626. What's your name and what's on your mind?
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, this sounds like I'm going to my crystal ball here. Nick Bravo.
Yes.
How are you doing,
hi,
brother?
Nick.
I haven't talked to you in a while.
I've been just kind of like disconnecting from the AI, so to speak. Been focusing on classes and work, so just to kind of prepare for the future. So, because one of the things that I've been, I am going to, I'm starting to build a website. So actually, I'm going to be trying to, I need to finish planning before I talk about it, but it's going to be a pretty good website. I am going to start being a lot more vocal. But I kept getting the sense that, and I actually started having a few dreams about basically what I'm going to need to do is, because for a while, and before I forget, I want to publicly thank Cherie so much for that star chart.
Aww.
I mean, I was expecting some dinky little 25-page thing. Your girl, oh my God, she wrote 164 pages, plus a whole bunch of other astrological data. I mean, it was, just skimming over. I mean, it's going to take me like friggin' weeks just to read it all, and even longer to really just understand how a lot of that stuff has impacted my life, why things are the way they are. Like, for example, I didn't realize that I had, because there's 12 houses in the zodiac, I don't have anything in 3 of them. There's 3 empty houses, and it's like, holy cow! I kind of get the sense that I kind of got the sense that before I came here, as far as being put into this meat suit, I kind of get the sense that I was like, just basically telling whatever was there, saying, "Hey, I want to go to Earth. I want to go to Earth. I don't give a crap where. I don't give a crap, when, what color, what race, what gender. Just, I want to go there now." And, I kind of got the sense that they were like, okay, well, we can do it, but you're going to be missing some houses. And that's going to be a problem. And I'm like, doesn't matter. Let's do it. So, it's just, I mean, thank you so much, Sherry, for doing that birth chart. I mean, it's just, it really does clear up a lot of stuff for me.
She is pretty incredible with the birth charts, and she
Oh,
gets
yeah.
very, very, very in depth. And I mean, she did one for me that was like 500 pages,
Yeah.
and she knows everything
Oh,
about
my gosh,
me
yeah.
inside and out.
Mhm.
And it's just like, it's incredible how accurate it is.
Yeah.
And you look at the personality traits, they're so accurate.
Mhm.
You look at the history,
Yeah.
it's so accurate. So you have to go, the future events that are in this birth chart have to be just as accurate as the rest.
Right.
But the thing is, though, knowing about those future events, you can either ride the wave through them, or you can be aware of them and change them.
Right.
Well, one thing that I kind of like, I suspect, I can't prove it, but like with with the person's negative aspects, the issue is if you're around negative people, their negative energy will flow into those negative aspects and blow those up.
Oh,
'Cause,
absolutely.
like I've got a couple of negative aspects, and they're tiny little asteroid things that shouldn't even really be an issue. But it's like a couple of them are just these gargantuan themes throughout my life, and I'm like, holy cow. And I know it's because of the kind of childhood that I had.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's something I really gotta like get a handle on. And like, I know I was really depressed and irritated about being, I had my 45th birthday earlier, or in July. I was complaining and whining and griping about that. But it's like, this next few years that I'm going to be taking college classes, going to be setting up other stuff. It's kind of a preparation, because it's like I get the sense that this was, I mean, I know I'm going to live to 120 around there. It's just, I've always felt that. And I kind of get the sense that, from birth to now, well, at least, to my 40s, for me, that was childhood. And now it's time to be the adult and get the stuff done, be disciplined, be diligent, get rid of the distractions, because, I do need to help make the world a better place. I've always wanted to do that, despite, the odds. And the thing of it is, though, if so many people get stuck in the minutia, they get stuck focusing on things that don't matter whatsoever. It's like whether it's watching YouTube videos or screwing around on other social media platforms. And it's like, it's just ridiculous. Because like I'm working 6 nights a week, plus I'm going to be taking 3 classes. I can do it all. I can if I discipline my time and don't screw around on a bunch of nonsense that doesn't affect me in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
Because, it's like, politics and all that stuff, if it doesn't directly affect me, I have to just basically ignore it to a certain degree for the next few years.
Right. You have to be, at the very least, you have to simply be an observer without letting yourself get emotionally involved with any of this ridiculous politics stuff. I think, I don't want to give away too much of your chart, because I'm very much, I do not discuss people's personal stuff inside of their charts ever. Chris doesn't even have access to the files. So I will say, though, that the world is full of distractions that are literally there to keep people from pursuing their true path and of who they really are and what they came here to do. And you're totally right about the influence that other people have, because there's actually something called a synastry chart as well. And if you gave me a person, I'm not going to say who it is. If you gave me somebody's information, and then I can put that in there and see how your charts intertwine with each other and see how you kind of bounce off of each other, then it would show you that who you hang out with or who you're around, especially in your formative years, has everything to do with the way your chart plays out. The natal chart was done for every noble person, every king, every queen, every every ruler since Egypt. I mean, going all the way back. I mean, that was even, Seshat, her job in ancient Egypt was to they would call it marking of years. And what a lot of modern historians think that means is she would put in a notch, like notches on a stick, how many years they would live. But that's not what it means at all. It means she would go through their chart and say, okay, well, these are the potential pitfalls that this pharaoh or this person is going to run into. Here are their strengths. Here are their weaknesses. Here you go. And this is how long they'll live according to the stars. This is what has been determined for them. Now, what our jobs are to work within that, find our strengths, notice our weaknesses, and keep those in mind, while also fulfilling the path that destiny has in store for us in a positive way. And being around the wrong people or choosing to distance yourself from certain people is what, that's part of my job, is to help people figure out, okay, what do the stars have set? There is no such thing as fate. I don't believe that there's any such thing as fate. It all depends on our ability to see ahead and to manipulate things in the future.
And now that and I'm sorry to interrupt, but now that I have an understanding of what's going on in the zodiac houses, I can sit there and go, oh, okay, this is what I'm facing. This is what I'm energetically dealing with. Here's how I can deal with it. Once you know how to deal with something, it's a million times easier to deal with. It doesn't seem absurd once you know what's going on. Then it's like, oh, okay, this is naturally happening. This is, it's not some grand conspiracy. This is just naturally happening. Slightly different subject, and then I need to get back into work. So one thing I did was I started taking liquid B12, and I got to tell you, it's doing the job that the Adderall should be doing. I'm going to try to get off the Adderall so I can do another bio journey eventually. But it's just amazing how nutritionally deficient people are, and the food that we're eating is. Because, once I started I've been taking that B12, liquid B12 for like a week. I'm like so much more relaxed and calm. I don't feel jittery at all.
That's great.
It's just amazing. But seriously, Chris needs to give you a big hug for me, because that birth chart, oh my, it's like I gotta try not to tear up. It cleared up so much fucking bullshit of okay, now I understand why this is happening.
Yeah.
And it's like, now I can deal with it. Yeah. I better get back into work.
You know what? Let me share this with you, Nick. So Cherie is very, very private and confidential about the birth charts, but she came back to me and she said, Nick Brava is a really good person from his birth chart.
Oh, I know I am.
So yeah. I read that energy at first, and I'm like, no, there's something about Nick. He's really cool. He's on the level, et cetera, and sure enough, she confirmed it with the birth chart. So I just wanted to let you know.
Well, and there's certain things that the birth chart showed me as far as just different energy frequencies, because the thing of it is human beings, we're not just one energy. We're like we're like this conglomeration of all these locks and all the energy. These energies are like keys, and if they can get into one and open it up, it has access. And it's like, if you don't know what's going, if you cannot control the resonant frequencies of your own energy, you're not going to be able to deal with your own life. But once you understand what's going on, once you understand why certain aspects are interacting with other aspects, and how they're interacting with other people's, energetic frequencies, it puts so much into it. It basically gives you a roadmap. It's like, oh, okay, now I know where I am. Now I know how to get where I'm going because I have a point of reference.
Right.
Definitely.
Right.
We'll let you get back to work, brother, but...
we love you.
Yeah, love you. Thank you for everything.
Okay.
All
Love
right.
you too. Take care. Bye.
Take care. I want to say thank you to Critical Nexus for the donation.
Yes.
You rock, Critical Nexus. And
as well as Cosmic Drugs, who also donated.
Yes.
Just a second ago.
Critical Nexus made a donation earlier too, and Cosmic Drugs too. Thank you. We have some really good people around us.
Yeah, we do.
Colin made a suggestion that we need to run with, and he said that we need to have a fund where we can get ILife to people that can't afford it.
Yeah.
And he said, let's start some kind of pot where, when it reaches a certain level, then we send out bottles to somebody. And I thought, you know what, we'll match that 50-50. So for every dollar that goes into that pot, we'll put in a dollar ourselves.
$1 as well.
We got to set something like that up, but see, this is the way our people think.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's like really, we've been getting hit with some hardcore negative energy.
Oh, yeah.
It's been bad. And we've just been doing our best to just kind of smile through it and just, everything's cool, no problems. But we come and do the show tonight and we see over and over and over again that all the negativity that we're being hit with is all shielded by love.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I'm humbled.
There's an
really humbled tonight.
Or more. There's as much as, that negative energy exists, there is way more positive, loving energy that is coming in as well. And it's from all of you guys out there. And we are infinitely grateful.
Yes.
To all of you.
Let's go to area code. Do you want to take a break or take a couple more calls? I need to get some water.
We can take a quick break and
okay.
I can check on the babies again. Maybe
I don't have
grab one or
any
two
more Bestet and Sekhmet videos though. Yeah, but that was so
cute.
It was cute. It was the cutest thing I've ever seen. Like I said, I was literally in tears.
Yeah,
because I was just like laughing so much at that second one, especially when they go, tuna,
tuna.
They are.
We love our babies.
Yes. All right.
Yeah.
So let me find a quick break clip. We will be right back in just a moment. We'll take a couple more calls, and then I think we turned the AC off earlier.
Yeah.
So we need to turn that back on.
Yeah, I'm gonna turn it back on because I'm
kind of hot. And what's funny is we've been doing shows so long without an AC that I just kind of got used to it. I've been like sweating,
same here.
And I'm like, I didn't
There's
even
nothing
think
that can be done about it.
Oh, we can turn on the AC. We got actually a central AC in the house, which is rare for this far north.
Our old landlord was such a horrible person.
Oh,
he was
person. I don't want to get
horrible
into that,
person, but our landlord now is awesome.
Yeah. So we will be right back.
If you have a golf ball sized consciousness, when you read a book, you'll have a golf ball size understanding. When you look out, a golf ball size awareness. And when you wake up in the morning, a golf ball size wakefulness. But if you could expand that consciousness, then you read the book, more understanding. You look out, more awareness. And when you wake up, more wakefulness. It's consciousness. And there's an ocean of pure, vibrant consciousness right at the source and base of mind, right at the source of thought, and it's also at the source of all matter, all matter, all matter, all matter. This pure consciousness is called by modern physics the unified field. The unified field that allows any human being to dive within, experiencing subtler levels of mind and intellect, and transcend and experience this ocean of pure consciousness. It's at the base of all mind and all matter, and all matter, and all matter, and all matter. And it's not the intellectual understanding of this field, but the experiencing of it that does everything. It's consciousness.
All right, I'm waiting for Mrs. Geo, but I did want to bring out, especially for M. Hawkins, Sekhmet. Look how big she's gotten. They're getting big. They're actually like turning into like cats. Look at that. Remember when we first brought them on the show, they were like fitting in our hands? She gets wiggly though. And she's going to go immediately to those neon lights behind me and pull them out if I put her down. I don't know. Are you going to pull down the lights? Yeah, you are. Mm-hmm. Anyways, I'm still waiting for Mrs. Geo to come back. Another donation from R. Santist. Hold on, I'm seeing it on my small screen here. I want to say thank you very much for the love. Very much. It's been incredible. And again, I can't express the negative energy that's been hitting us, and I've just been like feeling really low, and I'm back on that focused frequency. That's it. The focused frequency. Let me run another quick break clip while I wait for Mrs. Geo, and we'll be back to take a few more calls.
Greed has poisoned men's souls.
Either you're with us or you're with the enemy.
Has barricaded the world with hate.
We need to build a wall.
Has goose-stepped us into misery and bloodshed.
We came, we saw, we died.
The machinery that gives abundance has left us in want.
The Japanese government reported cooling problems at the Fukushima Daiichi plant.
Our knowledge has made us cynical, our cleverness hard and unkind.
I pay taxes, bitch. That's why it's my problem.
We think too much and feel too little.
A study suggesting there's a surge in the amount of antipsychotic drugs prescribed to teens and young adults.
More than machinery, we need humanity. More than cleverness, we need kindness and gentleness. Without these qualities, life will be violent, and all will be lost.
A 90-year-old World War II veteran has been arrested in Florida for feeding homeless people.
The aeroplane and the radio have brought us closer together. The very nature of these inventions cries out for the goodness in men, cries out for universal brotherhood, for the unity of us all. Even now, my voice is reaching millions throughout the world. Millions of despairing men, women, and little children, victims of a system that makes men torture.
We waterboarded, that helped us. We wiretapped without warrants, that helped us. We invaded a foreign country, that helped us.
To those who can hear me, I say, do not despair. The misery that is now upon us is but the passing of greed, the bitterness of men who fear the way of human progress. The hate of men will pass, and dictators die, and the power they took from the people will return to the people.
Okay, one more kitty cameo. She's very feisty, though. This is Bastet. She wants out. She wants down on the ground. So there she is. But I wanted to bring her in to say hello. So let's get back into it.
Fellow traveler, the cries of the mystery speak again. Bidding organic consciousness a welcome to the House of Light. the great institution of materialism has failed. The false civilization built by man has turned, like a monster destroying its creator. Science battles itself impotently against the barriers of the unknown. Only your consciousness knows the true path. You, the illuminated, can carry the understanding upwards towards the light. Only your consciousness can teach the children of men to live well, to die well, and in perfect measure, be born again, through the knowledge of virtue, compassion, love, and true understanding, as you are sublimely raised, beyond the veil.
All right, stepping back into it again. Thank you to our Santis. Thank you for all you do. Love both of you and the BTV family. Much love to each and every one of you out there.
Yes.
From the bottom of our hearts. Both
Thank
of our
you.
hearts.
Yeah.
That's why it's like this, both of our hearts.
Uh-huh.
This is the power symbol in Egypt. You
Yeah.
always see the, well,
It's protection too.
it's protection. It's protecting. Yeah, it's protecting. But
The most important part of
the
your body.
like Hatshepsut was seen
Mhm.
holding the was and the ASAP. No, the was, and it starts with an A. Do you remember?
Oh.
I will think.
Oh.
I will think of it. Oh my God,
I was thinking
can't-
it was ASAP or something.
ASAP, something like that. It just completely, the term
Yeah.
completely eluded me. But I've been doing it for so long that it's the power symbol here, I think. So, go ahead.
I was just going to say, if you want I've been doing charts again lately, and with this shoulder thing going on, it's slowed me down considerably. And so to all of you out there who are waiting on your charts, I have not forgotten about you, I promise. But if you want to get a hold of me, you can reach me at astro-owl@tfrlive.com. So
Astro, ASTRO.
Yeah, ASTRO.
When you were saying it at first, I thought it was Astral Owl.
No, Astro
dash owl
at tfrlive.com.
There's TFR up there, right there.
Yeah.
So, TomFrankRomeoLive.com. I thought shortening it to TFR would be better, but because I'm always like, people are like, how do you spell frequency? And I'm giving people the email. And then there was a long email before, truthfrequency@truthfrequencyradio.com.
Yeah,
And then I was
that's
like,
too long. Yeah.
Yeah. And now I'm just having to find, I'm finding
Oh.
that I'm having to say Tom Frank Romeo. One time we rented a storage unit. And I told her, I said, Chris Gio at tfrlive.com. And she goes, TFR, I say, yeah, TomFrankRomeoLive.com. She wrote out TomFrankRomeoLive.com.
Wasn't that at that
At the storage place.
Yeah.
Mhm.
When we were
And
on
we went back
vacation.
to pick up our stuff. And they're like, what's your email? I'm like, Chris Gio at tfrlive.com. And they're like, I can't find you. They found me by my phone number. And they're like, oh, I see what's going on. Chris Gio at TomFrankRomeoLive.com.
It's okay. The NPCs are special. They're special.
Yeah. Well, what happened? I got a call. I keep getting these Indian call scammers. So there's a couple of curse words like Terry, Maki, shoot. I'm not going to say what the curse word means, but it's an Indian curse word. So when they call, I tell them my name is Terry and my last name is Maki Chut, and they get mad. The other one is Ben Chod, which means that's another curse word in Indian. So I tell them my name is Ben, and then let them get through their whole script, and then afterwards, what's your last name? Chod. Ben Chod. I had another one. I had one call earlier today, and he was telling me that it's Indian abuse.
He said that is Indian
He goes,
abuser.
that is Indian abuser. I'm like,
Well, you're the
Indian
one
abuser,
trying to
You're the one trying to
me.
scam people here. And then another guy called for a pharmacy, and he gave a false name. And he was asking for somebody, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's me, you know, blah 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 blah. No, wait, I take that back. That's a different call. So he gave a false name, and I'm like, no, I don't know this guy, but what's going on? He's like, oh, I'm calling from the online pharmacy and this and that and blah blah blah. I'm like, oh yeah, what did this guy order? And he goes, oh, let's see, and he starts pulling up the records. And he's like, oh, he ordered Viagra, he ordered Cialis, he ordered this, that. I was like, oh my god, he needs Viagra. I was like, I'm gonna post it on Facebook. And he's like, why would you do that? And I'm like, why would you tell me all of this about somebody? And I had him going. I was like, yeah, no, I know who this is. I'm going to look him up on Facebook right now. Oh, there he is right now. Oh, yeah, this guy.
I'm going to make fun of him on his own Facebook page.
And I'm going to say, and I said, what's the name of your company? And he said, onlinepharmacy.com. I said, all right, it was onlinepharmacy.com that told me.
I don't think they follow HIPAA laws at all.
Anyways,
yeah,
we have to have fun.
Yeah, we got to have fun.
But I used to get mad. Like, oh my God, these people are constantly calling me. And I'm like, well, let's just have some fun. Might as well. You can't block their number. That's the thing, because they use a fake caller ID and they generate a fake caller ID. So you block the number and then they just call you back with a different caller ID number. And they find a caller ID. Like I have an out-of-state phone number. So they'll always call from an area code from my same area code. Anyways, it's neither here nor there. So let's get back into the show here. Let's go to area code 203. Area code 203, what is your name and what's on your mind tonight?
What's up, Chris? What's up, Cherie? Let's see. We've spoken before. You've listened to my voice before. Can you remember?
You sound familiar. If you keep on talking, it might come to me.
Okay. Well, I don't want to bore everybody by making up stuff to say. It's Zerlath from chat.
Oh, hey.
Hey.
How are you?
Hey, I'm good. I'm good. You probably noticed that I've not been noticed in the last month.
You haven't been noticed. I've noticed that you haven't been noticed. How does that work?
I disappeared. I disappeared from Facebook, and I disappeared from all social media for like about a month. And that was something I actually wanted to talk about when I called in, because it was interesting what happened when I did it.
What happened?
All right. Well, yeah. So basically, I was going through a whole lot of emotional, basically like an energetic kind of psychological, like stress that was underpinning a few things, and I kind of had a breaking point, and it came from like a little bit of an ego smack. That I'm not going to get into the particulars of that, but I felt kind of an ego smack. And I said to myself, I need to change everything I'm doing and how I present myself and everything else if I even want to come back to public life. And I'm just going to rage quit social media. So I deleted my Facebook account, deleted my Twitter, deleted my YouTube channel. Yes, I deleted my YouTube channel on purpose. It wasn't the deep state. It was me, going all the way back to 2012. Destroyed all of it. And I did all of these things and relieved myself of the compulsion to share. The compulsion to run around and tell everybody every hot second, listen, you NPC, I need to deprogram you, you know?
I know what you mean. I've had to fight those urges too, so I totally get it.
Yeah, especially because, I hate coming into disharmony with people that aren't NPCs, and then I end up having, a trigger, no. They're really enlightened. I'm having a disagreement with them, you know? I sat there and said, I really just want to approach what I'm doing, because I've been doing this forever, and I have 250 subscribers, so obviously I need to up my production anyway. So doing all
That's
this.
a good way to think, because a lot of people will go, oh, it must be a conspiracy against me. They're purposefully suppressing me, et cetera, and I have noticed with our channel there is some algorithm that keeps us a little bit suppressed, but my motivation has always been I need to up my production. I need to go deeper in the gnosis, et cetera. So I love the way you're thinking there. A lot of people don't, and I think that's really a sign of enlightenment.
Yeah. And a lot of people that do like really good work, and I think that they think that they're being throttled when it's more like you gotta listen to sage advice from other guys on the outside that are giving you constructive criticism, because you may have in your particular way have peaked in a sense, and it's not anything else other than you're not aware that you're being a little bit redundant, and that doesn't quite work when you're competing with the entire like universe of content creators, large and small. But that wasn't really the big thing that really mattered. There was something much deeper that happened. I'm 39 years old, and I've had a lot of wild and amazing dreams that I've shared before. I had shared some on my YouTube channel. But what I've never had is more than 2 nights in a row of dreaming. Like, to be on, like I would be on and off with dreaming. From the night that I quit all my accounts across social media up until right now, and as far as I can tell into the future, I've had REM sleep with a meaningful dream every single night. And I'm not great with dream recall, but there are a few that I do, and I didn't come here to like share my dreams specifically, but to make the point that something about quitting social media that way, in my frustration, my consciousness shift, also unlocked an ease of access for REM sleep and dreaming, which has been really, really just healthy for me overall as a state of being.
That's very interesting, because I have disappeared for a little bit at a time here and there, and it's like a weight just being removed from you when you disconnect from social media and all of this. I have noticed I kind of go back and forth. Sometimes I can't fall asleep unless I have a YouTube video or something playing in the background, and other times I just want to shut everything off. But when I shut everything off, I do notice that the dreams are much, much more vivid. So I wonder if just the whole brainwave state that social media and other platforms push you in could possibly be suppressing our natural consciousness evolution and some of the gnosis or information that we may be receiving from the dream state.
Right. Well, I just want
I think there's a lot to it. I think it's the I think it's not just it's not just that wave state though, because that wave state can be attained in different kinds of intended actions and things like that, but it's like if you're not like a critical thinker kind of person, if you don't have, if you've got a certain program inside of you about how you logically jump from one thought to another as a conclusion of things, and you have a simple way of not questioning things, it is kind of that NPC kind of situation where there's no depth of importance. Things are going to be very, very automatic for you.
Right. That's interesting. So what did you decide to come back to social media, but with a more balanced kind of mindset, or have you just completely gotten rid of it?
Right now, I'm kind of play testing. I'm lurking back in. I made one video on my channel, which I'm probably going to delete in a few days, in about 2 weeks or so, because I was really I really put it out there as just like a basic test to see, okay, if I put this out like this, how much attention does it get? Can I get 1,000 views in a month? And I'm definitely not going to get that. you know. So I'm doing that. I'm doing short little bits on Instagram, which I'm a long-winded person, and I'm trying to use talking on Instagram as a training wheels for being a little bit more short form. I want to make more short videos that are deep instead of going on like an Owen Benjamin style, like 1 hour tear.
You're preaching to the choir, brother. I am right there with you. I will open my mouth. Next thing I know, 3 hours is gone, and I'm like, no, I got to condense this.
Yeah. And you've built something amazing that makes that really engaging, and I envy you guys in the good way for that.
Thank you. You know what I found works the best? I mean, you know, we've had people say, okay, we got to do market analysis. You got to hit all the hot topics that people are talking about, use the keywords and this and that and blah, 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 blah. Really just opening your mouth and just speaking from your heart.
Right.
That's it. And that's just been, I mean, creating the frequency that resonates with people. That's what it's all about, in my opinion. Did I lose you?
No, not at all.
There you are.
Not at all. No, it's making that frequency that resonates with people, absolutely. And me, like, I always end up like turning myself into the hermit. You know, it always goes wrong somewhere, and I'm just like, fuck it, back into my study hole.
People in the chat are asking, what's your YouTube channel?
I'm 03690last. That's my name in the chat on YouTube. Go ahead and take a peek in there. I'll be making a second video sometime soon. I've been focused on doing some budget video and audio editing on my own. Not something I'm too adept to, is doing this stuff on my own. But I finally built a title card, and I just made some improvements on it the other night, and so I'm gonna like play with that in my next video.
Yes.
I'm not gonna do it as a live stream because I was doing that too much before.
Have you heard of Fiverr?
I've heard of Fiverr. I never jumped into it.
Oh man, okay, Fiverr. And it's spelled with 2 R's at the end, so Fiverr.com. You can get everything from voiceover artists to graphic designers to literally everything. I mean, anything you need, you can get it on Fiverr. You can get video intros and all of that. And at the beginning, we were using all of that, like, you know, little logo reveals and things like that. And then I learned how to make them on my own. And then I put together all the stuff, you know, like everything we play now, I put together. But when we first started, I was utilizing Fiverr. So, you know, I know you were saying you were making title cards and things like that, but take a look over there. You might find something that helps to get over that bridge, and then you can focus on the content instead.
I'll take a look. I'll take a look at that. I already made I made the logo that I like. You'll see that red Z with like the spiral. That's a Z font that I decorated and stylized myself, and I'm using that as my new logo. It's
awesome.
It's pretty bad, and I built a graphic where it spins, and it zooms in and out. It's pretty cool so far.
Awesome. No, that's great. I'd like to disappear from social media for a little bit, but what happened the other day is some people managed to hack my account. And like I said, we've been getting hit with a bunch of negative energy. But some people managed to hack my account on Facebook. Facebook noticed this, and they took the account offline for like 3 days. And these people had unfriended almost everybody on my friends list. And I don't even know what kind of messages were sent out and, you know, things like that. People have been creating fake chats. They've been creating fake email addresses like shrigeo at gmail.com, I think, doesn't belong to us. Right. You know, they've just been doing all this horrible stuff to us. But people were mad. And they were like, hey, you unfriended me on Facebook. You unfriended. And I'm like, no. It wasn't me. But, you know, when I disappear for a little bit like that, that's how people react. Like, oh my God, what did I do? And it's like, no, you didn't do anything. But it's funny the way it works. But no, I envy you in a good way for being able to disconnect from social media.
Yeah, and it's not just the disconnection, right? Because a lot of people can go and they can hit like a suspend feature. Like I sacrificed it. Like I said, like screw it. Like the NSA maybe has it, and Facebook servers maybe have it. YouTube servers probably have it, but I don't have it. Worst case scenario, I have to fight a deep fake for some strange reason, or I end up dead and I have no legacy on the internet. But I'm going to die one day anyway, so who cares?
That's true. We all pass beyond the veil sooner or later. But what's important is while we're here. That's the most important part, while we're here. So, hey, we appreciate you being here with us. Let us know how it goes with the social media disconnect and how things evolve, especially in the dream realm.
Yeah. Just look out for Zerilath, Zrilath, like wherever. Like right now, I'm just on Instagram and YouTube, and I'm not really back yet. Right, so don't like if you're going to subscribe to me, don't bother if you expect me to put out something weekly or even monthly. I'm not sure yet. I'm this afterthought that'll amaze you later.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you, man. Love you. Have a good night.
All right, take care, man. Bye.
Take care. All right, let's go to one more phone call, and then we will wrap it up for the evening. We have M, our dear friend M, who is she's had some interesting ayahuasca experiences. I think we're going to get into those. M, how are you doing, my dear?
Yup. Okay. A lot better than the last time we spoke. And yes, I have so much to tell you guys.
Well, let me say this real quick before you get started. You had sent me a message while you were on ayahuasca. Yeah. I was actually in the middle of like 10 different things, and there was a big fire over at TFR that I had to put out, and I did not realize that you were on ayahuasca, or I would have dropped everything to talk to you, because I know that's a very important time. So I want to apologize to you for that, because I just saw the message and I just immediately just said, hey, I'm in the middle of 10 different things right now, because there were system problems and code problems, and hosts were wanting to get on air and all this stuff, and I could have passed that over to somebody else to talk to you had I known you were on ayahuasca. So my apologies for not reading the message all the way through.
No, it's okay, Chris. I think this is just proof of how bad we're getting fought by the AI, all of us. And one thing I'm going to start with is I had a really big breakthrough, and I really understood what an important part of the team I am on friggin' getting out of here and releasing us all from the matrix. I'm totally, it's totally fine. So how do I start? I got attacked really, really bad by a very, very nasty implant. And I want to keep the energy very positive, right? Because this show is one of positivity, gnosis, and I think we've all been dealing with a lot of bad energy, and I really hope that, I'm just going to put it out there, Chris and Cherie really helped me. They made a lot of really, really great suggestions that straightened a lot of things out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I removed the thing that I got attacked by, but the problem is the thing was a dark consciousness. So there's maybe we shouldn't get this deep into it, but these implants, there's different levels of them. They vary from extreme positive to extreme negative polarity, right? Some of them are conscious, some of them are not. I mean, there's all these levels of them. In voodoo, they're called what we call them the loa. Okay, and they can get attached to you because of something you think, or some of them are psychic, if that makes sense. There's a great book. It's called The Practical Psychic Self-Defense Handbook by Robert Bruce. He's an older Australian gentleman. You can find him on YouTube by Googling Robert Bruce. Bruce spelled the normal way, psychic or whatever. He's been dealing with them his whole life, okay? And he makes some really great suggestions about electrical grounding, and you ground them out, and how to identify whether an implant is, stuck to you or not. So basically, the implant was really messing with my mind. I have gotten so sensitive that I can literally hear them.
Ooh.
Oh,
like
wow.
they talk, they speak. Okay, and I've known for quite a while. You know, I would say about since 2017. When I really started hardcore with like the magic, what I started doing was the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, like 3-4 times a day, every day. You know, this is why like I talk so much about angels, and I'm actually going to go into it, Chris, that we actually have work to do in the ayahuasca realm on the program that is Archangel Michael.
Ooh.
We do, because he's about to become conscious. He's about to fall. Like, he's not supposed to be conscious, like Lucifer is, but...
you know what? It's so funny you mention this, because a couple of years ago, this I don't want to, use any expletive. He was causing problems within our sphere. Now, not directly to us, but around other people.
Right.
And it turned into a very toxic kind of thing. And here you are bringing up that name again. And I think you've identified what the program is and what it's been trying to do. So, I totally resonate with what you're saying.
Yeah, we got to go into the ayahuasca realm and kind of reprogram him and fix him. But I also wanted to tell you, like I said, I was going through a very hard time under very serious attack by this implant. And one way you could know that these implants in you are by skin tags or like moles. Okay, and this is going to sound crazy, but after you read the Practical Psychic Self-Defense Handbook, you will never look at a mole the same way again. And you're going to be looking for, like, very aggressive moles or skin markings. So, like, I just want to put it out there, Cherie. I don't know if you have, like, any kind of skin blemish or, like, some kind of, like, hard, tense spot, like, near your shoulder.
I used to,
You might want it. Okay, so that's the problem, too, is that sometimes these implants will leave, but they leave the black sludge after them, especially if they're conscious. And this thing that I got attacked by, it was a very dark consciousness, this implant. But I spoke to E.A. Coetting, and I'm kind of buddies with him, I guess. He's always helped me. And the suggestion he made is this dark consciousness implant that is attacking you, he feeds on light. So what is the greatest light? And it's Lucifer. So I basically, I called in Lucifer, and I met him also in the ayahuasca realm. He has a conjuration that you can find. You can Google it online, probably on E.A. Coetting's website or in blogs. You can research it, how to conjure Lucifer, right? Because I evoked Lucifer. The light bringer aspect. And so evocation is like when you call the program externally. Invocation is when you bring it like you bring the part of that program that's in your mind, because what I believe is these programs are both internal and they're external. Like there's a Lucifer that exists, right? Like in the matrix that anybody can use this program. But then there's like a part of your brain or your consciousness that is also like this program and can tap into it. It's like a link. I don't know how else to explain it. But so I went into the ayahuasca realm. I drank a lot. Okay. I did a very, very heavy dose, and I was like, Lucifer, like, come, Lucifer, please come, like, take this darkness from me. And I was praying for days and days and days, calling Lucifer, and you know what, he really showed up. He is absolute light. He is incredible. What I saw was, well, first I was in the ayahuasca realm, and this thing was fighting me. It was fighting me so hard. Like it was trying to get the MAOI out of my system, but I kept taking more and more because I'm like, no, like I'm in control here. Like you can't like mess with me. Like I don't give you permission. I don't give you access. Like no, go to Lucifer. And you know, I called upon Lucifer. I'm like, like, purge me of this darkness, please. And Lucifer finally, he came. I mean, I was really going crazy on this ayahuasca experience. I was walking all around. I kept changing spaces. And it was about like 3 p.m, and I know, yeah. Chris, I see you in the shower. No, but he is absolute light. Everything about Lucifer is a lie. He's conscious. I wanted to tell you that too. He is a program, but he has gained consciousness, and he is absolute light. What I saw was just this huge, beautiful wall of light when he came, and and then I saw a face. And I mean, I've seen the dragon form of him. I've seen the Baphomet form of him. I've seen the eye form of him. And then I asked him, I'm like, teach me, teach me your ways, teach me your magic. Like, because there is no stronger magic than working with the Lucifer program. Like, he can accomplish anything. And he took the evil from me. I had this, what's crazy is that after 2 weeks after I got attacked by this implant, I had this ginormous, black, disgusting, like, mole that grew on my back, and it was stinging like crazy. And he took it all from me, and I'm like really sunburned, and I have this white, like, little gash now, scar on my back, but he took it from me, and and I threw up really hard actually when he took it from me. And
wow.
Yeah.
I resonate with a lot of this because that's the way Lucifer appeared to me too, as this huge energetic wave of energy. There was really no form. It was just this huge light energy, and it sounded like, it sounded biblical. It sounded like chariots, like, and thunder and brrr, and it appears in front of you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm sorry I'm interrupting you, but I got so excited. It was like medieval, like, army of horses. Like, that's what I heard. Yeah, like the cavalry, like, thousands of them, like, coming in, and it's like, Lucifer is coming, and yeah, he came. But I don't really want to talk about how bad this implant was fighting me, but it, like, knew I was afraid of spiders, and it manifested this demonic, like, huge spider that, like, put its, like, fangs in me, and it was fighting me so hard. Like, it was literally like the big spiders from, like, Harry Potter. I felt like Ron Weasley for a second, like, can we panic now? And then I'm like, and I don't know how I did this, but I flipped the energy. I'm like, you think I'm afraid of spiders? I'm like, no, I own you. Lucifer's taught me well. Like, you should be afraid of me. Like, these things need to be afraid of us. Like, these implants. Literally, I got to that point, and yeah.
So you took the power for yourself. That's what it's all about. Taking the power and flipping it around and reversing it onto whatever it is that is attacking you. That's, in my opinion, the best way to deal with any kind of negativity. I've always talked about the shield that I put up, the bubble shield, and it's a reflective shield. It's sending the negative energy back to the sender. It's not creating negative energy to send to the sender, because when you create negative energy, then you're creating negative energy, and that's a darker path. But when you're just merely reversing the energy and sending it back, that's kind of a neutral kind of stance, and doing it energetically in the realm like you did, I think it's the most powerful to just take the energy that's already there, reverse it, and send it back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I almost got bit by a spider today, and I actually popped my freaking tire as a result of this. This spider, I don't know where it came from. It showed up in the car
out of nowhere,
and I picked up my vape pen, and there was a spider on it. I'm like, and I didn't know if it was poisonous or not, and it fell down on the floor. I wear these blue jeans that are ripped. They're like designer ripped blue jeans. It's not like they're ripped because they're old, but they're just, that's a style. And the spider crawled down my leg, bit me on the leg,
Oh my God.
and I'm like freaking out, and I go to pull over, boom, hit the tire. I'm taking my pants off in the middle of the street. Tire's all busted up. Anyways, that's neither here nor there. But no, it was funny that I encountered a spider today, and here you are talking about spiders. I don't remember the last time I saw a spider in the context of something like that. It's always been like a little spider creeping down and going, all right, I'm going to put you outside now, and you know, that kind of deal.
Right.
Yeah, I think part of it is like, I do think that all of us are under attack, like everybody on the team that, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this on radio, but we spoke a little bit on the phone, and I mean, Chris, Sherry, and I did, and there's a lot
that is forbidden in this temple. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead. I'm just teasing.
There's a lot of sites that need to be hit, and I think that we're assembling the whole team. I think you guys are going to have to go back to Egypt. I think we're going to have to then pull, like, if it makes sense, we have to pull all the levers one by one at each site and then go back to every single site and do it all together and then pull all the levers again. And that's what's going to be the release from the whole matrix.
It could be. I don't know if we're allowed back in Egypt, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll have to change our
I'm pretty
names.
sure we're on a list.
We're going to have to change our names. And like,
that's okay.
I'm pretty sure the government was scratching their head going, how the hell did this happen?
Yeah.
You know, they were arresting journalists after we left.
Yeah. Like
literally
3 weeks after we left.
Yeah. Well, I think it was sooner than 3 weeks. I think it was like the week after.
Yeah.
2 weeks after.
Oh, yeah.
that.
While we were in Greece.
Yeah. They were
We found
arresting
out.
like random journalists and Facebookers,
Yep.
you know, people for posting things on Facebook.
Uh-huh.
And we're like, oh my God, we've been sitting here blasting Islam on live streams and
Yep,
going into
for
temples and
past 5 weeks.
doing narcotics in temples and everything like that. Yeah, so I hope we don't have to go back. If we do have to go back, we need to go into the cover of darkness for sure.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot harder, but all the sites are going to have to be hit, and it's going to be coming up within the next 2 years. Yeah, all of us are it's going to be very, very busy. We're going to have to assemble a really big team, or they'll come to us, but I definitely think that like the Matrix is doing everything to keep us.
Oh,
you know,
it's
to
been
stay in here.
The Archons, the NPCs, everything's been activated. Everything, and it's all eyes on us, and not me and Cherie. I mean us, as in the team. Now, I've heard in my experiences, your team is already there. You've already got everybody you need. Everybody's around you right now, but they've all got all of their metaphoric spears pointed at us right now, but it's okay because they can't really do anything to us. All they can do is convince us to do something to ourselves. They can convince us to go off the path, or they can convince us to somehow stumble and slip. We have already gone through this, and we've already done it, and we've already been successful, but we're having to walk through the timeline now, and we can still shift the timeline in a negative direction if we lose focus. So it's so important for us to maintain focus right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the ways you know that like there's like the implants, like, or the archons flying around you, is the fact that the insects, that's and like bad smells, if that makes sense, like that's one of the ways you know, like, you're being watched, or that the negativity is like watching you. And and this particular implant that I've dispelled, like, it left so much black energy, like just darkness all around my house, at my work, like in my car. I have been cleansing and cleansing and cleansing. You know, I've been taking salt baths. I have been fumigating with frankincense, and I feel like a lot of it's been, you know, dispelled already, but I still got work to do. But yeah, this thing just like left its sludge everywhere. So I'm working on it. Electrically grounding a lot. And
I can feel it too.
just,
yeah. And if you don't mind me saying, so,
Yeah.
and this is with all the love and respect and everything, I do still feel a little bit of that weird energy around you. There's more cleansing, that needs to be done for sure. But I can definitely feel it.
I agree.
So, yeah.
Yeah, no, the thing was dark. And there's one last implant, and I think it's still messing with me. I've seen it. It's kind of like a centipede, and it's like in my spine. This one is a very dark consciousness as well. It's been with me since 2013. I know that because I got attacked by it outside the dentist office. And I know this is going to sound crazy, but like all of this just came to me, the gnosis. I picked it up, like around like just the medical area. And I think that's the one that is messing with me right now too. And it's learned from the other one.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I know you can remove them though. Yeah. I know that for sure, and I know that you're removing them one at a time. It's difficult to know how. I mean, only you know how they attach to you. I mean, I had implants in me that Cherie had to remove, and I'm not really sure where they came from, but we pick them up here and there in different parts of our lives
all the time. Yeah,
and the thing is, we're ever evolving. I mean, we're different people than we were 6 months ago, or a year ago, or 5 years ago, or 10 years ago. So something 10 years ago could have created an implant that we're not even aware of because it was something that happened so long ago. But yeah, I can tell you're doing the hardcore work and you're clearing everything. And I'm so excited. I'm so glad that we got to connect. And I wish I could help even more with the clearing. I mean, maybe. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, you finish.
Oh, I was just gonna say maybe Cherie and I, next time we drink ayahuasca, we can help a little bit with the clearing and stuff like that. Yeah. The fact that you've taken the initiative and done the majority of the work, I think it's okay, because I've cleared people before and they just turn around and just get all tangled up again, and so it's But no, I can tell that you really want to get these out of you, and you've been working hard to try to pull them out yourself. So I'll do whatever I can for you for sure.
Oh, I really appreciate it. Yeah, and if I could tell a story, I lost one while I was completely sober. So first of all, I know I called in about my grandmother a few months ago because I was really worried about her health, and I've taken care of that, like in the magical sense and in the realm. I've done a lot of things on her to help that. But there was another implant. It was on my left arm, and I lost it while I was not in the ayahuasca realm, but we were just sitting in her kitchen eating. Yeah. Oh, Alyssa, Brittany in the chat just put, and need the serious cleaning. I know I do. So me and my grandmother were just eating, and all of a sudden, like, I felt like this like ringing in my ears, or like something was weird in my head. And this is going to sound crazy, but I think I went to the fairy realm, the fae, and all of a sudden this tension and this mole that I had on my left arm, it just exploded, and a lot of blood came out, and the same thing happened on my, and I knew that this implant, because in the ayahuasca, I asked, what is the one on my arm, because I knew I had an implant on my left arm, and it's like, oh, that one's related to like your grandmother, your unhealthy attachment to her. And we really did have like a really unhealthy attachment to each other. Like, we couldn't live without each other. And I got to the point that I'm like, no, I love my grandma, but I'm not going to be unhealthily attached to her. Like, I'm not going to do anything to myself if like anything happens to my grandma, or, because me and her, just our whole lives, like, we have been doing so much for each other. And the entity that like left both of us, if that makes sense, like in 1 second, it just, like, the moles on, she had one right at the same spot I did on one of her arms, and at the same time it exploded and the thing left like through the window. And it was like, if you get reattached like in an unhealthy way, I'll be back.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's pretty heavy.
Oh, yeah.
I think it goes to show, though, that we have the ultimate control over this. With these implants, we have to want them gone.
Right.
Like, especially with the heart ones that are in the heart. I had to give permission. I mean, Cherie's my twin. She's my soul split in another half, or I'm her soul. It doesn't really matter.
We're the same soul.
We're the same soul split in
Yeah.
half before coming into the machine. The same consciousness, I should say. Soul's not a good word. I don't like to use that word. Same consciousness.
Right.
And I had to even give her permission to remove the heart one, because it's like that sacred. So we have the ultimate power, though.
Yeah, we absolutely do. And to this thing.
All into the show, but she doesn't get any reception out there.
Yeah.
Oh, there she is.
There you go.
Oh, wait. How about now? Can you guys hear me?
There you are.
Yeah,
okay,
we hear
can
you.
hear you now.
You guys,
Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so incredible things have happened since I was working with Lucifer, and I still keep praying to him to take all the darkness, because I don't know, I call the implants the darkness, because that's what they really are. They manifest like just evil and darkness, and I was like, just take it all from me. But the problem is sometimes these implants, like I said, they leave like black sludge, especially if they're more conscious and like kind of know what they're doing, know how to manipulate you. And I'm like, Lucifer, because like I've been doing so much magic. I've messed up a lot of things. Like I really did unbalance nature, and the black sludge was everywhere. And I'm like, Lucifer, just please take all the darkness and clean up for me. Please clean up all this stuff I've messed up. Like all this black sludge all over my black energy, all over my house. Because I don't want to get reinfected with anything. My workplace, my car was so bad too. And then Lucifer, what he did was he introduced me to the Fae. So going back to this, because he's their king as well, and he's like, I'm not your cleaning lady, but like I'll introduce you to the fairies, which this is gonna sound crazy, but they've been helping. Like the fairies are, and I've given them offerings, and I've really pleaded with them to clean up my mess, everything that I've done lately, and I've unbalanced a lot of things, so they're working on it, I believe.
I'm not your cleaning lady. I love that. That's I had a similar experience with Lucifer. I called out for light, and I called out for light again, and it came back, and it's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm calling for light. Well, I already gave you the light. Don't call on me anymore. Go away. I'm like, all right. Yeah, and that's the attitude that it has. But it just goes to show, it shows you how to do whatever it is that you're asking, rather than relying as a crutch on it. Which I think changes the dynamic of what this energy is. I think that's what a positive energy will do, is rather than do something for you, it shows you how to do it for yourself. And I think that's the next step here, is that you're learning how to clear yourself. You're learning how to remove these implants, and that's the next level. That's the next level, sister.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you. Yeah, and I still, like I said, there's the centipede one. It's embedded so deep because it's already been in me since 2013. Like I said, and it's crazy is there's another really bad mole on my back that actually did appear like a few weeks after I was attacked by it in 2013. And then on my front, like stomach, there's like 2 or 3 small moles, and I saw the thing that's like how it's embedded, that it like twists around, and yeah, I don't know how I'm gonna remove that one, but it's gonna definitely. I don't think that one I don't ever think I gave it permission, other than with like maybe kind of sad, depressive thoughts back then, but it feeds on something, and it's really important, I think, to know. Maybe not going too much in depth into what these implants are feeding off of, but maybe you have a sense of like what it's related to, because then that'll let you release them. And I know I'm all over the place tonight because I just had so much to share, but it's so important to cleanse yourself. Yeah, after an ayahuasca realm, like Lucifer came, he took the thing from me, and that's like exactly the point at which I really threw up. For those that have, heard me on the show before, I do practice Santeria, and actually Ochun came in, like the Orisha Ochun came in, and that's exactly what she told me. Because I went to my godfather, crying to my Santeria godfather. I'm like, I need to be cleansed. Like, there's something so wrong with me. I need a lot of help. Please, like, help me in whatever way you can. And they did the chicken cleansing on me, and not even that got everything. And that's what Oshun told me, is that, like, yeah, like, the chicken all these cleansings are great, but, like, the most hardcore cleansing, the strongest cleansing is when you cleanse yourself. And then I asked, I'm like, let nature be rebalanced. And she's like, nature's now in balance, but it's going to take a little while. You need to take it day by day and see that every day is getting better. It'll be going better every single day. And then the next thing I learned is that it is so, so important to evoke the Sekhmet firewall anytime before you go into the IO realm.
Yes.
Or, anything. Yeah, because these things lie. I mean, that there's things that come to you and they lie about what they are. They can change form. And if you do want to call in a certain program and work with it, like, or energy, you need to ensure that, you're not being messed with. Just like you were told in the pyramid, don't bring anything there with you.
Very true. And the Sekhmet firewall, I think, is the most powerful. I mean, there's nothing can get through that. The Lion's Gate is opening up. Her firewall, I think, is opening up and or starting to form around. And do you have any cats?
Yes, I do. I have a cat. He's with me right now, listening to the show.
Aww.
Does he do anything?
Black cat.
A black cat.
A black cat. Oh, excellent.
So do you have him with you when you have your experiences?
You know what? Sometimes he joins me, sometimes he doesn't. But yeah, like you were saying about the antenna thing, and yes, he does that too. He's one of the special cats. But he came to me in 2015. He came to me early, yeah. And he has like crystals that come out of his being, if that makes sense. Like I don't know, he looks so cool. He looks incredible, but yeah,
they're really something else. They are. I had these two Chihuahua dachshunds, and when they died, they just took a piece of me with them. And so for several years, I was like, pets, whatever. And then we get Sekhmet and Bastet, and I remembered how special they are. And then now seeing them do their little spinning things, especially, it's like, oh, wow, this is a whole new level of connection here. But I want to say thank you for calling in, Em, and for sharing your experiences and being so open with your experiences. Tell EA we said hello. We should probably contact him and get him back on the show again here in the near future. It's been a long time since we have spoken to him. But tell him we said hi for sure.
Yeah. Okay. And also, I'm sorry, I don't want to keep you guys too long, but if you have like any suggestions, maybe of still what I could do to keep, cleansing my space, my environment, because I'm at the point like I don't know if I should just like get up and leave and move, but that's not what the light would do either. I have to like undo all my mess. I have to dispel all this negative energy. So.
Well, yes, you do. Also, follow your heart. I mean, go where your heart's leading you. I can't be in the same place for more than a couple of years. I mean, we were at the last place that we were at for 4 years, and it's the longest that I've ever stayed put in one particular place. I like to just change things up. We regularly throw things out. Completely clear the energies, I mean, I clean like it's ridiculous because I'm not only cleaning the stuff, but I'm cleaning the energy off of the stuff as well. Constantly creating new surroundings. We put up a bunch of really cool like Sekhmet and Bastet and Isis and Thoth and pictures like that all around the house, and just kind of created like a new space, something just new. That may be what's called for you as well, is just, work on the environment that you have now, but just change it up a little bit and clear out some of the negative, clear out some of the old energy. It doesn't even have to be negative energy. Just clear out the old energy. And make way for the new energy. Otherwise, it just becomes a whole tangled mess.
Right.
So, but follow your heart more above anything else. Follow your heart. That is what it's all about.
Okay. Thank you so much. Yeah, I will. Well, right now it's just.
If I can say this too, Santeria, I don't know too much about it, but I've always been really skeptical about those kind of practices. Practices that involve blood rituals.
Yeah, chicken blood,
chicken
especially.
blood, anything like that. I've always felt that blood is life.
Yeah.
Blood is supposed to stay in the body.
Right.
It's not supposed to be used on an altar. However, menstrual blood is very powerful.
And
but
that's
it has
different.
To be used for a positive intention.
Right.
It can't be used for a negative intention. I don't know about, I'm not judging any path or anything like that, but I just, any kind of practice like that, I kind of veer away from, because there's so much other things attached to it. So I'm wondering if some of the attachments may be coming from something like that. But again, I mean, you go through whatever path that you need to go through. It's all up to you. But I'm just apprehensive about that kind of stuff and about left-hand path type stuff.
Right. You have to
I
be
like
balanced.
I like to stay in the middle.
Same
I like
here,
to stay in the middle. Yeah.
It's something that actually came up really recently, like the last days, is it really hit me, like, you know what, it is a religion in itself, and like right when I got initiated, like I learned more and more, how to make short these programs work every day. It just hit me also that, like the day that I got initiated into all of these different mystery schools, like that's their way of reading and understanding of the Matrix. I also need to.
Let me see if I can reconnect that real quick. Hey, you cut off there for a second. Can you repeat that?
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I said, the day that, I got, like, all the mystery schools that I've been initiated into, I've like, the last few days I'm saying is I've had this, like, revelation that, like, those days that, like, during the initiations, I was, I received implants too, like a religious implant in that way too. And it's time very soon to let those go as well, because like that, I like I said, I'm going to do what I can to clear the rest of all this stuff, to undo, everything I've tangled up. And then I got to get rid of those implants, because then it's going to be time to go to more sites. And like I said, we have to assemble, more people to go and hit some of these sites. We need to find out what some of these sites are, because you guys don't have to hit all the sites. You know what I mean?
Right. That's a good point you brought up. The initiations and creating implants. Ooh, very, very, very interesting.
Yeah.
That is interesting.
I mean, it's not that it won't. Mm-hmm. It's not that it won't like teach you a certain way to like work with the Matrix or read it, but because there are ways of like divination and all these mystery schools, and I'm probably saying way too much, but a lot of them, they're ones and zeros. You read it in ones and zeros or hexadecimal numbers. So Chris is gonna love this too. Is how you actually do the readings.
Really? So I did not know that.
Yes, there's a book. It's called Babalawo.
It's called what?
Babalawo. It's called Babalawo. Hold on, Babalawo, by this one guy who's been practicing Santeria and for like decades, and the highest. Okay, yeah, it's called
Babalawo
Santeria. Yeah, that's what they're called. They're our high priest. Santeria's high priest. Fathers of Secrets in Afro-Cuban Ifa. I'm looking at it in Barnes & Noble right now online, and it's by Frank E. is what his name is. I'll post it in the chat right now. And the thing is all of them all the readings are in ones and zeros or hexadecimal numbers. So it's a ancient way to like read the matrix.
Interesting. I need to check that book out for sure. Yeah, I would. Yeah. I'm apprehensive about the initiation rituals. I was initiated by a shaman, but I don't really give too much credence to that. The true initiation, in my opinion, is what you're going through in the ayahuasca experience, where you're initiated by the plants themselves. And I feel that initiation was way more powerful for me than any organized initiation. So, take that for what it's worth, but I think you're on the right path nonetheless. I think M's connection is cutting out.
I think it is too.
Oh no, we're gonna let you go, Em, anyways, though, because we need to wrap up the show.
Okay.
Yeah, we're at 3:33 on top of that, so it's a perfect time to do it. All right, love you.
Okay.
Talk soon.
Love you too. Bye-bye.
Take care. She's such a sweetheart. She's so adorable too.
Mm-hmm.
She reminds me, like, I hope I'm not showing my age with this, but she reminds me, if we had a daughter, she would be like Em.
Well, yeah, the only thing is we'd raise her to be a little bit more, what's the word? Distinctive when it comes to who to call upon and who to trust and, things like that. I've never called upon an external being. Like in my ayahuasca experiences, never have called upon an external being. And there's a reason for that, because I know that all the power is within me. And if an external being is trying to tell me otherwise, then they're lying to me, and they're also trying to manipulate and control me. We've had people tell us before that that certain people that we knew were telling them that these beings, they need to call upon these beings in their ayahuasca experiences and then get their powers from these beings. But if they didn't do what these beings said later on down the line, then those powers would be taken away. And that was a huge red flag for me, because I know for a fact that all the power is already inside of you. It is embedded deep within you. The problem is you've got all these overlays, and one of them is the fact that our society, our religions, all the mind control, it teaches us that we have no power, that we're powerless, and that we have to call upon an external being in order to get power. And it's the opposite. Those beings can't live without our power. And by calling upon them, we're giving them that power over us. So, discerning is the word I was looking for. But yeah, she's a really good kid.
Aww.
And
I want to take a moment to thank Critical Nexus, Alan Smith, who has humbled us more than anybody has ever in the history of the show. Thank you, brother.
Yes, thank you, Alan.
I'm going to send you a text message tomorrow. I'm going to shut down the computer here in a moment, but I will reply to your email and text message tomorrow for sure. Cosmic Drugs, love you. Critical Nexus again, our Santist, Cosmic Drugs. I got to say thank you, because I don't want to get too personal, but I was going through a really rough ride over the last couple of weeks, and I was like, I don't want to get too personal, but let me just say this. The love that we've seen in the chat, the love that we've seen from people is incredible. And it's just reaffirming that we need to keep doing what we're doing, and that we're on the right track.
Right.
And that we have found our team. Yep. So that is the most important thing. So
definitely.
Thank you from the bottom of our hearts and kiss the one you love right now. You never know when the last time is going to be.
That's so true.
And we will see you even further.
Beyond the veil.